Hello, everyone. I am Soda, and I am here with Undercooked Fish, and this is
Hello,
our World of
hello.
Chaos action report thingy. So for those who weren't there for World of Chaos, it's basically a chaos game on the ImpDip map. It was public press. There was like 15 or 18 or something different press channels, something insane. It was 1 day phases, and all of these, I think it's 345
345, yeah.
dots. Every single one of these dots is a separate player. I was in this game. I was playing Weenhayek, and so a lot of people knew me or know me as Ween because of that. And that is the small little yellow dot in the middle of South America. Um, yeah, this one still exists on the map today, although in slightly different form.
And
And
I
then
played
fishes.
as Masulipatnam over here in India, little brown power, way across the world.
Yeah, and
Some
so a couple
very,
things to point out, I guess, about how this was played. So all of the regions, or all of the like areas, I guess, are split into 5 regions. You had Europe, you had Africa, you had North America, you had Asia, which was like basically all of Asia. So like India, China, Siberia, South, and Japan and stuff was all lumped into Asia. And then the last region was the South, which combined South America and like Oceania, kind of Indonesia as well. And then these like the press channels were split per region, so like everyone could see and access and talk in these, like in every region's press channels, obviously. But like you were supposed to keep your press mostly to your region or like the region it was relevant in, so that it would be a bit easier for people to find press.
yeah, and that
Yeah,
led
another
to
thing, the
some
game.
very interesting
Yeah,
conundrums, because like the splits, they were a little bit like
yeah. For like some
arbitrary.
powers,
So
especially. Yeah,
there's a
like if you're
split
in
somewhere
like
around
Sumatra,
here.
then you care about the Asia press and you care about the South press, obviously, for example, like
Yeah,
Andaman Islands. Same with the Caribbean, and like northern South America. I had to deal with both like North America and South America press. And so yeah, so the way I think different kind of regions did it differently, but in the South we had 3 press channels for South America, and then the very bottom press channel was for Oceania. So even though I was in the South, I cannot tell you much about what was happening in Oceania because I very rarely checked their press channel.
yeah. The way we
Um,
had it over here in Asia, at least at the beginning, it changed later on, but I won't give any spoilers. We had one channel for India, one for Central Asia and over here, one for China, and one for Japan and Korea around that area in the beginning, but it changed very fast.
yeah. And then another thing, this game it was played with a set end date. There was no like official legal win con, but there were basically 2 kind of categories to compete for. One was just own the most dots at the end of the game, and the other was a like vassal point system. Do you want to explain that one, maybe, Fish?
Yeah, sure. I think I have the leaderboard up here on this one, on the builds map. So the way the point system worked is that there were different tiers of powers. There was the first one was I think duchy or county, which is powers one or two Cs. The next one was king. I don't know, kingdom, yeah, kingdom, which is
Kingdoms, right?
powers on
Yeah.
3 to 5 dots, and the last one was empire, which was 6 or more dots. And the way it works is the different tiers can take the tiers below them as vassals. So if I'm a kingdom, if let's say I'm over here in Helsingfors and I own Umeå and Stockholm, and I'm on 3 centers, and I can take other centers as vassals. So let's say Narva's here on still on 1 center, and I'm on 3. I can take them as a vassal. And later on, if I get really big, let's say I'm on like 8 centers or something, and there's a 4 C power around here, I can take them as vassals, and then they get to keep their vassals. So let's say I'm a kingdom, I can have I'm an empire, I can have a kingdom as a vassal, and that kingdom can still have duchies as vassals. So there's a bit of a tiered system. And the way it works for points is that 1 dot equals 1 point per year. So if I have 8 SCs, I get 8 points for my dots. Let's say I'm a power on 8 SCs, and I have one vassal that's on 4 centers, and he has two other vassals on 1 centers, and I get 8 points for my dots, 4 points for my kingdom vassals dots, and I get also the points from their vassal. So I get a total of 14 points. And then the way it works for when you're a vassal is that there's also needs to be an incentive to actually be a vassal, except for not being killed, is you get half your liege's points. So my vassal that was on 4, they get 4 points from me because I'm on 8. And the 1 SC vassals, they each get 2 points because their liege is on 4. But the like trickle down economics doesn't really work because if you're a duchy and you're vassal to a kingdom, but the empire, your kingdom, that's your liege, is vassal to an empire, you don't get the empire's points. It's only the empire that gets your points. So the big boys feed off the small there. That's basically the vassal system. Well, I think we'll go a bit more to depth maybe later once it's
Yeah.
becomes more
And then
relevant.
one last thing, kingdoms and only kingdoms are also allowed to royally marry, and they can royally marry any other kingdom,
Oh, I forgot
and then
about that.
they
Yeah, good
both
one.
get points for each other's SCs. Yeah, yeah, because I did
Right.
this one in this game. Spoilers, maybe.
Oh, actually, good. Did not know that.
At some point.
Dual
But
monarchy,
yeah,
yeah, is what it was called. Yeah,
and
right.
then yeah, dual monarchy. And then to vassalize someone, you need to have, I think, a unit within 2
Yeah,
moves of one of their SCs, not counting convoys, and like counting armies walking over oceans and
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. It doesn't have
It's
to be
like,
legal moves. That
yeah,
comes in useful
that
later,
comes
but
into
for, at
play
least for
later as well,
me.
I believe. So
Yeah,
yeah, like with your fleet there, you could still vassalize Bellari if you just had 2 more dots or whatever, even
yeah,
though you
exactly.
can't walk there by fleet in 2 moves
Yeah,
forever.
walk through
Yeah.
Pinero, then into Bellari.
Yeah, and so we can go to like maybe we can go back to just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
talk
yeah. I'll
about
go
what we were
back. So
thinking
there's
before
okay.
builds. Yeah, yeah.
You can
So
go
because this
ahead with
game
that.
started in winter, so we got to choose our own builds. For me, it's obviously really easy because I can only build an army, and you weren't even allowed to wave your build in the first year. So like obviously I don't really have much to do here. I think I was also like out at a friend's house playing probably Super Smash Bros. When the game started, so I was doing very little press, which is not good at the start of a chaos game like this. But yeah, I was doing very little press and mostly responding to pings for the start, and then like later when I got home, I kind of scrolled back a bit more, searched my name, searched my neighbors' names, see if people were scheming anything. Um, yeah, and I guess I'll go right into like some of the press that happened there. So the very first message in one of the like chats was the player on Japura up in the north, the like green province right above Madeira. This player sent a message, "People of South America, I came here today to express my discontentment with the GM team. They believe South America isn't a great continent. They gave Europe, Asia, Africa, and even North America one press category. Well, we are the South. They want us to wheel. They want us to meme. I want the South to be great. Or I want South America to be great. So I propose we unite to get to prosper, to rise. Let's make a continent-wide alliance so that we can show South America is deserving of its own respect. As a symbol of unit, not unity, unit, I propose the bee with a bee emoji. As a bee is rather weak alone, a hive together moves the world. Let's show
For
everyone
real.
that South America can be great. Join the Buzz Bros. And so this message ends up playing a really big role, as a lot of people are very fond of the idea of joining an alliance and kind of getting the security that your neighbors won't stab you because you're in the same alliance. And so for me, I then get pinged by the player in Chiripa below me, below the Grey Power next to me. Um, and they're like, "Hey, if you're around, I would love to chat with you." And then I say hi. Like later when I get home, I say, "Hi, I'm home." He says, "How are you doing?" The first thing you want to do for your own sake, nickname yourself and add a bee emoji to it and become a member of the hive. Otherwise, they're going to single out and kill you. So, one thing to note as well, I have never. This was my first game like in the ImpDip community. I've played a lot of like regular diplomacy, and I've played some variants. I've never played a chaos game. I have played public press games before, and I've also played like face-to-face games, which have a lot more public press aspect than like online games usually do in my experience. But yeah, I don't know this player at all. I don't know why he's specifically focusing on me. But he says, add a bee emoji to your name and you'll be safe. And I didn't really want to think too much. I just added a bee emoji to my name. Yeah, the other person to message me really early, Aoreo messages me. He says, "Hello." I reply, "Hello, let's be friends." He says, "Yes, friends." So now we're friends. And then Chiquianto also messages me. And they also message Aoreo, like they ping us in the same message. And Aoreo proposes a defensive alliance, and then like when I get back, I agree to that as well. And so yeah, as I mentioned, kind of everyone in South America is joining the hive. So on the screenshot I'm looking at, which was like very early in winter, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's like 17 people around the time I joined, I think. And I know even more people join like later as well. But yeah, the general gist of it is that there's just a ton of people um, in the hive. And so the hive is like planning some stuff out. One player who notably hasn't joined yet is Nokugo. And so the players around Nokugo are saying, "Hi, you should kill Nokugo." And one of them pings the Nokugo player, and I'm like, "Why are we pinging this guy when we're saying we're trying to kill him? Why are we trying to draw his attention to that and like give him counterplay?" Um, and so people are like, "Well, being secretive and trying to pull these things under the rug may lead to a reputation of backstabbers." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I want to backstab the people I'm not working with and taking their dots from." Um, Yeah, and then later on, people come with the proposal to kind of not split the hive in two, but split the like divide the ruling of the hive into two different groups. So there's now the North Hive and the South Hive. The North Hive is led by Amazon, who is Ezio from Diplostrats, and the South Hive is led by Chiripa. Um, and so yeah, and I end up being placed in the South Hive. And my neighbors, Chipaya, I think Chick is in the North Hive actually. Chipaya, Aoreo are both in the South Hive. Quella is I want to say in the South Hive as well.
It would seem to make
I don't
sense
remember
with
where
the
Quella
dots
was, but
distribution.
yeah, but yeah, and then like kind of everyone south of us is in the South Hive as well. And so yeah, I build my army because there's nothing else to do, and I have three people around me who can only build armies and who kind of have other dots to go take, but might still want to walk into my dot. I notably everyone around me is in the hive, like at this point. And we'll show that in a sec as well. But yeah.
One big
Anyway, that
friend
is
group.
how.
How
Yeah.
could anything go wrong?
How could anything go wrong?
So then is that it for your initial
Yeah, it's for my
impressions
winter.
and
I'll go over like kind of what I was thinking with moves when we get to spring.
yeah,
But
perfect. I will go over to India. So to start, yeah, I'll go over about how I managed to end up in this pretty random province because there's a interesting story behind it. So a couple of days before signups happen, I open my phone and I see a notification from Salt in the server. Salt, who is a longtime diplomacy veteran and who I've played many games with before. And so I click on it, but then when it opens into the server, I see nothing. I look for it, I see nothing. So I'm confused. So I ask around. And apparently he sent a message pinging like a bunch of known stabbers and chaos veterans about wanting to all pick a power in India and have a big Indian bloodbath, Indian Thunderdome, I believe he called it. And then the message was literally deleted by the GMs and the mods because that's pre-gaming. But then there was still quite a lot of talk about it beforehand. So when I'm doing my picks, I think this was number three. My first couple of picks were over here somewhere in North America because I like the dot chains over here. So I picked this number three. I kind of put it randomly because I figured I would get either my number one and number two. As like, okay, it doesn't really matter anything I put below that. And then lo and behold, when we arrived at the beginning of the game, not only did I not get my first or second picks, and I end up here randomly in India, there's no one from like that Salt ping. I think like I'm probably the only one who like put a choice there. And Salt's not in the game either because he missed the signups. So I'm stranded alone in India for no reason. And yeah, so then press starts, and similarly to you, wasn't really available at first until like 6 hours into the game. I was going to see a movie with friends, I believe, And so I basically just, as soon as the game started, I sent a message saying, "Hello, everyone. I want to be friends. Please don't kill me." And then I didn't really do any press till that. I think someone sent a message. I think it was Goa, who's like, "India friends." I was like, "Yes, India friends. Yes, just don't kill me, please." So that was that until a couple hours later I joined, and they were basically in the process of setting up an alliance within the whole of India. At the beginning, it was Maldives, Ceylon, Cochin, Madurai, me, Madras, Bellary, Goa, Hyderabad, Raja over here. I'm not going to pronounce the entire thing the whole time. Surat, Ahmedabad, Delhi, Kathmandu, Sasaram, Kolkata, Ringpunpa, and Kabul up here. It was the beginning of the Indian alliance. It was literally called the United Nations of India, or UNI for short. And yeah, so then at the beginning, we were basically all being friendly. Eventually, there was a similar power division system as you, just because it's so fucking it's so large, it's gonna be hard to manage. So what we have is districts. The first one is Andhra over here from Andhra coast. It was me, Raja, and Madras. And Bellary was in it at some point. I don't know. Early on, he was in it immediately, but eventually they joined. The second one we had this one. I'm not. Uh, Dravid, I believe it was called. I've kind of forgotten the district names. Maldives,
That's
Ceylon,
correct.
Cochin, and Madurai. And then the next one was, I believe, something on the east, maybe Ahmedabad, Surat, and Goa, and Hyderabad. And then up in the north, we had Delhi, Kabul, maybe Ahmedabad. I don't really remember. It's not that relevant to my thing, so I'm just going out of it really quickly. Let me go see that
So
really
yeah,
quick.
Amenabad is in whatever the northern one was called. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, that's much. Yeah,
yeah.
we'll we'll talk about it later. But then a big shout out to EMU for providing us with these alliance maps. It's gonna make the recording a lot easier. So yeah, uh, yeah. So Bellary. Oh, I don't think I'm on the right one. Yeah, maybe a little bit of spoilers there. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, right. So I forgot about this. Rinpoche was a bit of a dual relationship between us and the Chinese alliance, Heaven's Crescent. They kind of weren't sure who to join. They were playing both sides, which we did not really appreciate. I believe eventually they came over and decided to join us, but we'll see as the game goes on. But that was a bit of a touchy point at the beginning. So yeah, we have yeah the all the districts. So yeah, okay. So Bellary was in the Western District at the beginning, not in ours, but I believe later they joined. Okay, I'll go back to.
Yeah.
So yeah, things start, and then we start looking at okay, if we got this massive alliance that's super stable, never going to collapse, where are we going for expansion? The southern people decide to go into Africa. That's going to be a whole story for the first like 5 years of the game that I'm not even going to try to touch on. I have no idea what happened there, but fun and interesting things, I'm sure. These people decide to go up into the actually I'll pull up the alliance maps for this, it'll be easier. The migrating hordes, and then we generally decide to go into the Golden Federation, which is the whole Ayutthaya, Southeast Asia zone over here. I'm looking at the map. I'm looking, what's my first dot? Because generally in chaos games, you want to get it. If you want to survive, you want to get a dot year one. That's generally,
Yep.
as we'll see, that's not necessarily uh, a all-out rule, but generally you want that. So I'm looking. My easy options for year one are going to be the Andaman Islands. So I'm positioning that. I'm like, if I want them, because we have three of us in Andhra bordering the Andhra coast, I want to be the one to go to Andhra coast so I can have a chance to maybe get it, maybe work with some other people be, over here to get myself support into it. Because Andaman Islands, I believe generally they were neutral, like their allegiance was a little all over the shop in the beginning, but they were generally friendly with everyone. They were friendly with the B1G alliance over here, which I think was a lot of people who played it together in the game previously around Sumatra, Batavia over here. I'll go look at it more later. So yeah, that was my general goal. So I was like, I'm gonna build a fleet. For builds, there was a lot of debate about if one of us should build an army over here, maybe for like convoys or like protection. I think we decided to build. all fleets. But yeah, that was the general debate. So yeah, and
Yeah.
then I suppose there was a unique constitution that was created. I believe it's not in this phase. So generally, that's it for the
Mm.
early press. Just forming this wonderful great alliance, and we're planning out our builds to
Yeah.
go
So
expand.
we both end up in these really wholesome, massive alliances that will last the entire game and
Of course, yes,
a
there will
bunch of
be no
dots. Yeah.
chaos whatsoever. All
Nope.
right, we can go over the builds.
Yeah. So yeah, I build an army, and maybe we should also get the alliance map mode of South America now.
Yep, that sounds great.
Um,
I will go.
yeah.
Yeah, so you
And
have
I think
your
we should take
northern
the
and southern
second.
hives
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah. Exactly. Here you see the northern and south. So Quilla was actually in the north. It's interesting.
Okay.
And you can see there's a couple other relevant alliances. There's to the north of us, there's this massive, massive pirates alliance in the Caribbean. Everyone's scared of them. There's also this
Yes.
Spectacled Bears alliance, which is three people who kind of joined late and then subbed in or whatever, I think, as well. I don't know that much about what was happening there. The player in Kalina, which is like the biggest dot in the middle there, or like the big dot like at the bottom there, was a bit of a yapper, but I don't know anything about the other two. There's Colon Ridge, which is like the entire kind of west coast except for one province, which I'll get into in a sec. Then there's on like the rest, like the lower west coast, there's the Hornet's Nest, which is very clearly, by the way, there's Spectacled Bears and there's a Hornet's Nest. These were very clearly two alliances that kind of formed up in response to the Hive, because eventually the Hive, like, the leaders were like, this is getting too full, we gotta stop accepting like applications. And then there's also St. George's Accord, um, which is also, again, I think some people who were just kind of inactive at the start didn't get into the Hive. And so yeah, and then the Hive is talking, and it's like, okay, we're gonna work with the Hornet's Nest, and we're gonna eat up St. George's Accord in the south, and we're gonna eat up all the like neutral dots. I believe we make a deal with the pirates that the pirates just kind of get uncontested like Venezuela area, but in exchange they don't attack us with fleets. It might be good as well. Hive didn't really discuss anything regarding builds, so it might be good to go to the builds map and just kind of see what happened with that.
Yeah, sure.
Because while you were talking about like everyone building fleets and being wholesome, you can see there's not many fleets here. Sao Paulo was not a Hive member; they built a fleet.
Oh,
But then Rio, Salvador, and Bahia also wasn't a Hive member. But yeah, Rio, Salvador both built armies. Tupi wasn't a Hive member. I think actually all three of those dots were just completely neutral. Um, Exura built a fleet but isn't in the Hive. Chimaya built an army. You can see that Lika, who's in the Hornet's Nest, built a fleet, but Huarpe built an army. If you scroll up a bit, then you'll see that Bellum built a fleet. Bellum, I believe. I forget if he subbed in, but Bellum was in the Hive. Kalina and Sayan also built fleets, but they're not in the Hive right now. South Sebas did build a fleet. They are in the Hive, but Marstad was randomly not in the Hive. And then Quito, they actually built an army. I thought they built a fleet, and that's why they joined the Hive. But I guess they built an army, but like were willing to join the Hive and support us into something, and I'm not sure exactly. It's Exura. So we offered Exura, hey, if you join the Hive and like take over one of these people who build an army's dots and build another fleet with that, like we need fleets, so we'll happily take you. And I think we also told like Kalina Sayan, like, hey, we need fleets, join the Hive. Because yeah, if you scroll up to the pirates, for example, you'll see that's like all fleets.
yeah, that's a pretty
Literally,
big armada there.
yeah. If you look at Africa on the coast there as well, on the other side of the
Hmm.
Atlantic, you'll see a bunch of fleets.
Surely they wouldn't
Um,
attempt any kind of invasion. That'd be madness.
Really not. There's all these armies inland. Surely those would take some thoughts, right? And
Hmm.
so yeah, and we have basically no fleets. That's really bad for me. I want like fleets are great, right? They move units
Yeah,
away from me and they can't actually get to me. So like the more people with fleets, the better it looks for me.
100%.
That said, all my Hive friends who are supposed to be friends with me built armies. Um, So yeah, this phase I'm mostly talking to Chiripa because he's like leader of the South Hive, and I'm talking to Chapaya, and it's like, okay, Aorio's gonna go, and I think Aorio gets Tupi, and that's a dot. Chikrantrio or whatever, however you pronounce this, Chick goes and gets Chumaya, that's a dot. And then Chapaya and I are talking, and he mentions to me like, I think we should try to take one center among the two of us. preferably two, but we should try to at least get one. And then Lika, remember though, we're still working with it, Hornet's Nest.
Right.
So Lika wants to go into ROG and then into SPO. And so Huarpe and Chapaya kind of agree that they'll bounce Lika then to keep that fleet safe, and like the fleet in SPO is going to be useful to both the hive and the nest because that's going to prevent the people over in Oceania from breaking into
Yeah,
us.
that's
So
right.
this map wraps around, and yeah, SPO connects to Australia and AO, however you pronounce New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand, we'll say.
The thought, and these people, I think at this point they're called like the
TTFF. I don't remember what
Trans-Tasman
that.
Fleet Friends, TTFF.
That sounds great. Yeah,
It's Trans-Tasman Fleet Friends, I think. Yeah, and they also kind of built a bunch of
I'll just
fleets.
pull it out
And
over
they had
here.
their
Yeah.
own things. I think they had some drama with someone trying to gaslight someone into not being the Alliance, and the person gaslighting got kicked. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't really know what was happening here.
yeah. I did not pay
I
attention
just
till
know that they had
seeing.
a bunch of fleets, and so I wasn't actually that sad about that because fleets can't kill me. But on the other hand, like there is a, such thing as like too many like foreign fleets invading like South America, and it was starting to look like that because kind of everywhere there was fleets except in South America, which was an army fucking Thunderdome. But yeah, so I really only have like two options here, or three options, I guess. I can move into Mia, I can move into Witchy, or I can stab a hive member and walk into their dot. Stabbing a hive member feels like a surefire way to die, so I just move into Witchy because Witchy is next to a not hive dot in Lika, and Mia is only next to hive dots, so Mia is kind of useless to be in as well. And so yeah, I move to Witchy. I don't really tell that many people about that I'm moving to Witchy. I just kind of move to Witchy.
Probably a good idea.
Um, yeah, and like I think it's unlikely I get bounced because all the other hive people around me have plans for their spring moves. Chapaya needs to bounce Lika. Aeorio's walking towards a dot. I forget if Com is getting a dot or is supporting. I think Com wasn't getting a dot. I think they were supporting someone else into a dot. So like they could be scared, but like they're not going to walk into Witchy probably. They
Yeah,
might
generally
like
they're
cover
probably
their
just
dot
more
and
focused
fall,
on that area over
or
here.
like walk into one of their neighbors if they're not getting a dot. And yeah, Chiripa's getting Mbaya. Yeah, as I said, Chick is getting Chimaya. So I'm not actually that worried this spring. There's three people with armies next to me who could walk into my dot, but I don't think any of them will. Yeah, and that's kind of how spring goes for me. Worth noting for like the other alliances, the only one that really like packs a punch is the Hornet's Nest, where Huarpe is kind of the leader, and she is actually doing press. The rest of like the alliances and the neutral people who aren't in the hive are just kind of not very active and seem like they'll die pretty fast, I guess.
Yeah, fresh meat for the
Yeah,
bees.
which is good because I want people to have dots to go take, but I am stuck in the middle of the hive, so I need dots myself as well. So figure out how to get that.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll go over to my zone. Yeah. So the beginning, like I said, there was a bit of a debate on if we should. Oh, I missed something. Yeah, I'll go on that later. But if we should build, if anyone should build an army, we eventually decided no. Let's get a bunch of fleet. Let's push east as quickly as possible. So we all built fleets. And then for moves, I could kind of say I want to go to Andokros this turn. You guys can backfill later, and they were fine with that. Madras was going to backfill in fall, and Raja was going to go to Orissa to start putting pressure on Bay of Bengal, so we can get into Pegu. Because at this point, our war effort on Golden Federation was pretty clear. Although we didn't, I think we never officially declared war or anything, but it was pretty clear there's going to be a conflict just because we're all but poor Israel over here to fight over the Bay of Bengal and everything. All of these powers get fleets so they can move into the Indian Ocean. And then yeah, so here's the thing I forgot. Bellari wasn't actually in the alliance. I think they arrived late and then we were like we have no use for a random army in the center. Hyderabad was in the alliance because they were there early, but then so we were like, that's a free dot for us. Let's kill it. So we decided to give it to Goa so they can build a fleet. So here you see here they built an army, and then Hyderabad's going to be supporting them into Bellari in fall. We decided to do it in fall because if we, the idea was if we have them retreat in spring, then they can just retreat to any of these places and then just threaten our dots on the coast here and force us to come back and defend them rather than pushing
So
outwards.
surely they're not just gonna walk into a province anyway, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's that. You would think so, but Anyways, we'll see about that. Yeah, a couple important players here. Goa is the press master. They did something like 7,000, 8,000 messages in the first year. Yeah, so they were constantly talking 24/7. So they were
This guy was
definitely the
also, by
leader.
the way, in every like region's press channel. Like everyone
Oh
else,
yeah,
especially in this first year, everyone was kind of confining to their like region or the people relevant to them, with two exceptions. Emu was like occasionally popping into other regions, like, "Hey, what's the alliances look like here? I'm making a map." And then Goa was like in everyone's region, reading messages, shit posting, fucking. I don't know how this guy kept
yeah,
up.
everywhere. No, but Goa is a Chaos veteran. They played in the 7 Days of Chaos game and did pretty well in that one, I believe. So yeah, they're someone to watch out for. Yeah, so our something I forgot to mention also is our region had leaders. I wanted to make sure I was the leader of my region because there wasn't like an actual like official. Actually, yeah, there was a security council. We had different positions. We had the leader, which was supposed to coordinate the moves for the region, and there was the security council, which was supposed to do take on matters for the alliance as a whole. So basically, if there was a vote on let's all go to war with one alliance, then that would be the Security Council voting on that. So at first, I wanted to be both positions because I think there was some people that were both positions, maybe Goa. But then we eventually decided that Raja would be the Security Council member and I would be the leader. That people tried to make the Security Council relevant like 7 years later, like, but it never really had an importance because generally in these games, it doesn't matter what the official position is. It's whoever talks the most is going to be in charge. And I wanted to generally put myself in charge of the entire alliance. I think I said something in my void of like, what's the fun of this if I can't be the absolute dictator? Yeah. So I was basically looking at everyone who was talking a lot with enmity because I was like, I don't like you talking. This is my alliance. So I think in the southern one, I don't really remember who's leader. It's not really relevant. This one was definitely Goa. This one was probably Delhi. Delhi was a pretty good player. Talked a lot. They were very loyal to the alliance. And then in this district, it was Kathmandu, who was also talking a lot. Those are the general leaders. But as I said, the whole system was more in theory than in practice. And then we also had the Uni Constitution, which had a couple of articles, I think, just long live India, stuff like that. Nothing really relevant except an article that said, if anyone ever stabs the alliance, we all have to come down and destroy them. There will be no mercy for stabbers. And that thing actually becomes relevant in practice. Probably the only part of this like constitution leadership system that actually becomes useful, but we'll go into that later. So for now, for moves, like I said, I was going to go to Andhra Coast. Raja was going to go to Orissa to start putting pressure in Bengal. As far as negotiations with other alliances, we're working pretty closely with B1G, which is over here. I'll just go verify which one is actually in it. Yeah, so we have Sumatra. We have, I think, Sambas was in both. And then we've got some powers over here, which was at Timor. Yeah, Flores. And then Batavia was not in their alliances. Batavia, they just decided they would kill them, but then they never really bothered to think about if they would defend themselves, and that becomes relevant later, as we'll see. But yeah, we were also talking with the Heaven's Crescent Alliance in China over here because we wanted them to come down and help us with Ayutthaya. I don't think there was ever an agreed upon split, but we decided we would just divide those out between us. And then over here we had the shogunate led by I think the official emperor was Edo, but then you had Firebender over here in Kyoto, who was basically the leader. I don't know if he had an actual position, name position, but he was leading the entire alliance for the time being, at least. And the fun thing is, Japan and China were supposedly at peace, right? They said we're not going to fight. We're going to be friends. I'm not too sure what Japan said they'd be expanding, maybe into the Pacific, but that was the goal. And then the
Or
leader of
South
the
America?
did they say they would go into South America? I don't
I
know if
don't
they.
think so,
I don't
but
think so, but
like,
they they weren't supposed to be fighting China.
yeah.
But then the fun thing is, the really fun thing is, the leader of the Japan, Firebender, and the leader of China, Arctic and Macau, could not stand each other. They spent hours and hours and hours debating and fighting and bickering over the smallest things. I think at least one of them was trying to stoke a war between the two alliances, uh, probably in an effort to get themselves some growth, but it was just so ridiculous. And I needed China to come down here and help me out because there's a lot of armies here. It's going to be hard to break into. We need help, basically, if we're going to actually make progress against the Golden Federation in Ayutthaya. So I'm like trying to mediate that, and I'm like basically begging them not to fight, but it just keeps going. And eventually, there's going to be some major disagreements, I believe, after spring, and they're just going to go full out war. And I'm just depressed at that. Ugh. Because no one else in their alliances basically wanted war, apart from maybe a couple few people, but generally it was just those two, the leaders, that could not stand each other, and it was hours upon hours of fighting. As far as the other alliances, we had the Council of Wisdom up north over here that did nothing but hold. It was the most passive alliance in the entire game, probably, which later in the game that made me a little bit angry because I would have needed them for things and they just chose to hold. So they won't be very relevant. Over here we had the Baikal Besties over in Siberia, which might become relevant for now, but I didn't really have any relations with them for the time being. And then you had, yeah, that's pretty much it. You have the migrating hordes over there, which are just going to shrivel off and die slowly, but I didn't pay attention too much to that. So that's pretty much the spring negotiations. I'm going over here. I'm trying to get into Andaman now, or maybe Pegu next year. Andaman and Pegu are the dots I've steamed for like early expansion, which either of those are not really good because look at Andaman. It's like very far. It's kind of far away, and it's being threatened by all these other dots, so it's not really a stable thing to hold. And Pegu is a full 3 spaces away from my dot. But because of how mega huge the alliance is, and my belief that I couldn't really get away with standing it because of this like rah India whole overall feeling and the article in the Constitution. That was kind of my only options for growth early on, which didn't make me super happy, but I kind of went along with it. So I think we can go on to spring moves for now. Is there anything else you
Yeah.
wanted to see around the world? I don't think I didn't pay anything attention to
Uh,
anywhere else.
I did not pay any attention to other regions at this point in the
Yeah,
game.
I'm sure very fun things happen, but we're not going to be talking about them.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, here, South America, I move into Wichi. Everyone else moves exactly as planned, I believe. You see the bounce in Lika that was arranged. You see Chick is moving to Pano to get into Chimaya. Iorio is going to Tupi. Sharipa gets supported into Mbaya by Tupi, who isn't in the hive, and Mbaya walks into Laclano just for free. Like, not give themselves a good retreat either. This, I believe, was Sharipa's
Yep.
press kind of flying to this player, like, hey, if you give me, lying to both players, I guess, like, hey, if you give me a dot, we'll, like, let you join the hive. We'll, yeah, I don't know exactly what the plan was.
Poor
Yeah,
Mbaya. Very
yeah.
sad.
And then I mean, Tupi is also just gonna die to I believe Chiripa's gonna support Aoreo in the fall. Sao Paulo, I believe. Oh yeah, so Ezio Amazon wanted a dot. And Nokugo at first was not an active player, so they said, okay, that dot will go to Amazon for some reason. Somehow Ezio convinced people that clearly he gets that dot. And then a Nokugo, like a new Nokugo subbed in. People were like, hey, let's be nice to the sub, let's give her a chance.
Ugh.
Ezio still wants your dot, but we'll let you join the hive if you take a dot down in the south. Which is complete nonsense, but I guess it makes it easy for Ezio to get his dot, and that's how he worked that. Yeah. Some other things, as you can see, Marstad is not a member of the hive, and so they're trying to like get into St. Marcos, but Bellum gets supported in instead, and I forget who between Bellum and South Sebas was going to get Maristad, but one of them was going to get those 2 dots initially. Farther in the north, there's I think the bounce in Guyana Current, or maybe it's even supported by the Pirates. I don't know. I don't really know what else happened honestly here. Okay, yeah, it's supported really hard by the Pirates, so that doesn't
Yeah.
bounce.
Oh, a lot of overkill there.
Yeah, and I mean there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot happening up here as well. That I can't tell you anything interesting about. Um, if you go down a bit, you'll see that Xura walks into Gulf of Gallia, whatever, and I believe the idea here still was like, hey, Japura and Madeira both tapped the dots next to Lima. Will now support Exura into Lima with whichever one gets in, and then Exura builds a second fleet.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and so somehow Chumaya, which was also being taken by us, was supposed to not retreat into Exura. There's a lot of like magic happening in press that
Yeah,
makes no sense whatsoever
yeah, that's
in
cool.
like the plans and in the executions. Honestly, yeah, I think in the south we're working pretty much lockstep with the Hornet's Nest right now. You can see
Yeah.
actually I guess we don't work with them necessarily, but like we do set up to work with them. I believe the idea is that we support them into like Tushin and we get Buenos Aires, something like that. And I think we're
Very
again
nice.
trying to give a build to Chirua here so they can build another fleet. But yeah, that is my knowledge of what the Hive did this phase.
Very nice.
I don't know if there's anything in India that's interesting.
Let's go see. As I said, the Dravid district in the south moves down because they're going to be fighting in Africa. At some point, I know Réunion joins the alliance. I don't remember when that is, but at some they're going to be Réunion and Fort Dauphin are going to be working with us. That's it's going to be relevant later, but I'll just say now. Yeah. So over
United
here,
Nations of India and Madagascar.
yeah, Bellari supports Hyderabad to Goa because basically this entire time Bellari is yelling at Hyderabad because Hyderabad's supposed to be supporting Goa into them in fall. But Bellari is the only thing they can do to save themselves is offer Goa to Hyderabad, so they can support them into Goa instead of Goa killing them. So they're going through this.
Or you just like walk into Raichur and like
Yeah,
make life for Raja and Masu living hell, or you walk into like Palyakar and like you can talk
you
Cochin or
could, but
Madurai or something.
they seem to feel that that
I mean,
was
you
a
probably don't live
that's not.
doing that, but
Yeah, you
yeah,
die with spite at least because you get the
yeah.
fuck out of moves. So yeah, I get supported into Andhra Coast, very nice. We bounced with Pegu and Bay of Bengal. That's just a hostile bounce, but we knew it was going to happen because that's just the optimum play here. Andaman Islands is
I
working
love
over
the
here.
support from like what is it, Sasaram in the north?
Oh, yeah, I missed that. Oh
Like
my God,
making
that's
your intents
madness.
very clear,
Oh my
but
God,
also like
the
clearly not
misorder,
the
right?
move that was
I was not
intentional
happy to
here.
see that. Oh my God. Yeah, that I was not pleased because it just sets us back so much.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can see these guys. Everything's working fine in the Golden Federation. They're working very well. They're gonna go kill Hanoi probably. Everything's going fine, but no, we have to misorder Spring '01, and that was a bit of a. I was kind of mad because last time, my last Chaos game, I also suffered from a Spring '01 disorder into my alliance. So it seemed to be that was a tradition now, and I was generally not pleased because I was playing as the wheel, right, and then we were trying to spin around, but someone somehow found a way to
yeah.
mess that up. I'm still a little bit salty on that. Oh well. Yeah. So here we see another wonderful display of alliance tactics, in that we're gonna go north to go attack Nakansi over here with Ornament and Sumatra, but we're gonna forget about Batavia's fleet. We're gonna assume it's gonna see. This is where the magic kind of breaks. Like, oh, we're gonna go kill them. Yeah, that's a free dot. Then they walk into Sumatra, and then that basically messes up everything for their tactics. Then over here you have another interesting thing. Sambas walks into Banjar, and that was not planned. That was a full-on stab, but then they somehow managed to negotiate themselves into keeping it, I think. But that's just a full-on betrayal in their alliance. Sambas is going to become relevant later. They're a very skilled player, and they're basically one of the biggest leaders of this alliance down here, of the B1G and then the Malacca Compact over here with the Philippines. As far as Asia goes, you can see the besties and the Horde coordinating against China. China basically implodes at this point. They lasted like a whole entire season because Arctic, I think, subs out and begins our long legacy of Macau's leaving. I believe we had a lot of Macaos in this game. I think he was basically done with all the fighting because he spent the entire time just fighting with Firebender up here, and then he was kind of tired of it all. So he subs out, and then I think it's in this turn, but if not, it doesn't really matter. It's somewhere around here, and his replacement, he names Hainan as his replacement for leader of the alliance. But then Hainan is a lot less leadership experience, I said, or like angled towards that. So he just wants to make fun of everyone. And so when we were supposed to be working with them against Ayutthaya over here, the new leader basically said, no, we're going to be friends with them instead. And that just made me even more mad because I was about to have my great triumph. And then, no, we sub out. And then the new leader doesn't want to work with me. Very pleasant. But yeah, so you just see Japan and China are fighting around here. China's beginning to collapse. Like they're just going to be fully eviscerated. That's just one of the shortest living. R.I.P. Heaven's Crescent. 1642, 1642, basically. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
about it for spring moves for now. We can have some
Yeah.
a lot more spicy stuff in the next one. I've
Yeah.
got,
So
I
there
think,
is a retreat
retreats
phase, but they don't matter to me at all. Like I think there's okay, Pagoda can retreat, I guess. Sure.
here. I don't know when was
That might have been
disbanded.
important, but I don't remember if it was.
Yeah.
I didn't write any notes on it, so
Oh well.
yeah, and India is all peaceful, so there's no retreats there.
Nope.
Which we'll see a
There
lot in this
never
game,
will
of
be,
course.
and there
This
never
is
will be.
fall moves immediately.
Yep.
So yeah. Okay, so for fall moves, I spent like this entire phase just like because so my goal this phase is Chapaya needs to know that I am supporting him in Talika, so he doesn't try to dot me in Weenhayek. Nobody else in the world should know that I'm supporting Chapaya in Talika because I
Hmm.
want the South to go beneficial for the Hive still, I guess.
And they
But
can
Chapaya
defend
needs
really
to know.
easily if they see it. You just have
Yeah,
Harvark
yeah, they
support.
can really easily just counter it with Rog like moving back in and Huarpe supporting it instead
Yep.
of the moves they did here. So yeah, Chapaya messaged me like, "Hey, we can work together and like get you away or get me away from your center and like get some dots for the hive." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And Downpour is also like, "Yeah, that's good. Let's do it." Um, and then later, Downpour tells Qualm that, "Hey, maybe you and Weenhayek should bounce over Qualm so that you know you're not getting dotted." So like Moko and Witchy will bounce in Qualm. And I'm like, yeah, sure, we definitely do that, yeah, yeah. And then I'm also like saying like, hey, Chapaya, you're the only one who can dot me in Weenhayek right now. Would you be okay if I tap Chapaya? If you're doing the bounce in Lika, it won't matter, but it means if you stab me, then I don't get into then like I don't die, right? We go neutral. So I'm telling Chapaya, like very publicly, by the way, and not really with the goal of Chapaya hearing it, but I'm saying, hey, you can just do your bounce in Lika. That's fine. I'm gonna tap Chapaya though to make sure you don't stab me. Yeah, and so I think I managed to fucking gaslight, like, convince this well enough that even Sharifa and Chapaya get a bit confused by it. But in the end, they do like kind of know. And I also like I talked to Sharifa a bit, like, hey, do we really want to kill fleet that can't touch us instead of kill like or do something else productive, like kill army that can touch us and is just doing a support? But he's like, yeah, yeah, get some trust with Chapaya. They seem like. And he says like, we'll get you a dot later, but like just for now, stay loyal to the hive or something.
Hmm.
So yeah, and yeah, in the end though, I do give the support in Talika. Some other things you can see that everything around Exura just goes incredibly wrong.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
trying to figure out what I think. Chumaya was supposed to bounce Exura with Quecha.
Oh God.
Whatever unit is above Lima was supposed to support Axura in, but instead Axura supported Lima in or something instead of just taking a
Oh
dot
yeah.
that
They
they were
both
given as
supported
support.
each other into it. Oh wow.
Like, yeah.
That's some.
Um, Pagoda is saved actually. Um, Amazon walks into Madeira, and Japura walks into Amazon when Amazon was supposed to just get Nokugo, which was his own dot for free. I believe Japura was supposed to just like do anything except stab Ezio.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, everyone's mad at Amazon because he stabbed quite clearly. He walked into the wrong dot. He's saying, "Oh, it's a misorder. I just never checked my orders." No one believes him
Oh,
because how the
a
fuck will you
classic
mistake
Ezio
Madeira for
misorder.
Nokugo? Yeah. Um, and yeah, Japura comes up with this entire massive slideshow of why I stabbed like Amazon and it was correct and it was important and the right play for me and otherwise I would have died and like trying to justify it. People aren't really buying that either.
Oh, a
But notably, if you
slideshow.
scroll down to the south, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, slideshows. That's something we haven't talked about yet.
No, we haven't.
But I think that was something that was starting to pop up around this time. But the player in Galapagos, really liked slideshows and using them as a way to convince people that your opinion is the correct one. So what people would do is they'd make a slideshow and then they'd upload all of the or like post all of the slides as images in a message. Be like, hey, look at this. This is the objectively correct opinion, you know? And like it would look very professional and everyone would always immediately believe it. Um yeah. And
Okay.
so that started to become a thing around this time. And yeah, Japura was one of the first ones to jump on that bandwagon as well with his slideshow of why he stabbed Ezio. In the south here, I believe everything goes according to plan. One thing is that I think Sharipa, just before the deadline, Sharipa told Rank, hey, don't actually give the support. But Rank was like, no, I'm going to give the support anyway, even though I'm not supporting my alliance. And yeah, you can see we're giving the fleet to we're giving the build to Chiruo so they can get a second fleet. Killing Sao Paulo, even though that player has a fleet. Aorio gets sported into Tupi. Tripa keeps Mbaya, and then Chipaya gets a build from me, and Chick is getting supported into Chumia, by Quella. So everyone around me is building. I'm not. I'm not in my top.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, this is great. Uh,
Chupaya just
anyway,
this
yeah,
no individual player that has 2 dots on you. That's at least one positive.
yeah.
But yeah, could
Yeah,
be
and
better.
it's
Could be
like
better.
if I get spring stabbed at least, it's like somewhat likely that I can get supported back and fall by someone else because people are going to want a 3 dot nation around me.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah. So anyway, the two big takeaways here: Farpe big mad at the Hive, and specifically big mad at Sharipa for like organizing this massive stab on her alliance, and then everyone in the Hive is mad at Ezio at Amazon for the stab. Everyone is also mad at Japura for the stab, and they're like, "Hey, both the leaders of the North Hive, because remember Japura was like one of the leaders and the one who kind of came up with the Hive, and then Amazon was like kind of more the de facto or like the real leader of the North Hive. They both stabbed in year one in fall, and I believe Chiripa used this to kind of get everyone in the North to like follow his leadership instead. So now he owns the entire alliance basically.
Oh wow.
Yeah, another thing to look at. If you look at South Atlantic Ocean, then you'll see that
Oh, the
Africa does
beginnings.
some fancy moves. They support themselves in a bit. One thing you'll see is the St. Marcos Bay Bellum fleet is supporting one of the pirate fleets into SAO4 to bounce with Africa.
Oh, that was a planned bounce, or were they
That
trying
was
to
not a
mess with
planned
Africa?
bounce. That was a that was not a planned bounce by Africa at all.
Okay.
But it was something that kind of the Hive had asked the pirates to do in exchange for I think this was the not contesting Venezuela deal. In exchange for that, the pirates would help us kind of slow Africa's getting into South Atlantic Ocean.
Makes sense, yeah.
Marstad, as I said, still not in the Hive, but we're like, hey, we kind of need this fleet. We kind of need this friendly. Let's try to keep them alive. He's bounced one of the SAO slots, and I don't know how, but somehow that gets like read and countered, and they tap the one that's getting supported into. I don't know if he was like publicly saying, "Hey, I'm bouncing too," or if, but like, surely this shouldn't have happened, right? Or it's like a really unlucky 1 in 4. But yeah,
Yeah, I
beyond
mean,
that, you see that like 4 of South Atlantic Ocean slots still go to Africa. Um, and yeah, I mean these dots are coming from all over Africa,
yeah, I mean,
and
we
that's
have
not
over
great.
here Cape Co, all the way in South
Cape
Africa,
Koe
supporting
is
Angola
helping
Basin.
Mbaza support to SAO4. St. Helena is an army, by the way. This was a player who was
All
memeing
right.
and just trying to get convoyed into Paris or something. Like they were like role playing Napoleon was their stick. And then yeah, Gold Coast. So Sao Tome is helping. Cormanton is going into SAO, and then these other two are like all the way in the north as well. I think like St. Louis or something, maybe even farther north. No, not. Yeah, like
Canary
Cabo
Basin.
Verde and fucking Arguin, which went to Canary Basin. So everything,
Yeah, that's an
like
insane.
everything that can get into SAO basically is getting there. One thing to note though, Mali walks into Ualata, and so I'm
Right,
like, maybe this is like the armies are going to just stab the people around them,
as they
kill
should.
the fleets, eat the fleet nations. Like Niani, the Niani player's unit is in Sierra Leone or Rise, right? Like Mali gets a build here, just walks into Niani. Ouagadougou just walks into Cormanton, right? Like what
Yep.
is
What are they
and
gonna
like
do?
yeah, what are people gonna do? I believe Iji is like up in Vegepat or something. Ichi's up. Oh, Ichi's way up here, bouncing in Rabat. Apparently, okay.
Bouncing on Rabat.
I don't know. I don't know what happened here at all, but sure. Yeah. Timbuktu is just holding. It's pretty crazy that like they're not arranging a bounce into Ulata because I believe this is all one alliance.
Yeah,
But yeah, and
that's
I mean
trust.
honestly, all of Africa is one alliance. Like I'll
Uh,
tell you it's not, but then you look at these moves and it clearly is. But we'll get to that later. Anyway, at this
yeah,
point, kind of the hive or this phase was where the hive really noticed like, hey, Africa's trying to get into South Atlantic Ocean and murder us. We want to not have that happen.
ideally.
Ideally, yeah. And so yeah, the kind of the slither of hope is really like, hey, this Mali stab, maybe that collapses this alliance before it gets a footing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's everything for me.
perfect. So yeah, for me the main thing is so we had Goa try to go supposed to go into Bellari, and we can see that does not happen because Hyderabad decides they want the dot instead, so they take Bellari's support that they've been offering the entire time and kill Goa, which is an insane shock to our alliance because Goa was like the de facto leader. Even if we had this like council system, they were doing so much press and organizing things. They came up with the idea for the alliance in the beginning, so they were basically our leader, and they just got shot
Yeah, imagine
dead.
your leaders getting stabbed.
Year
Crazy.
one, year one.
Yeah, in our alliance, our leaders did the stabbing.
Yes, of course, it's much better. So that's an insane shot because everything else basically goes as planned. This was some sneaky thing going into Gulf of Ceylon because I believe we had a deal we would get Andaman Islands later on because we didn't really have the presence and B1G needed them to help. So it was like, oh yeah, Andaman, we'll get you in like Tavoy sometime and we'll like kill you later on, like reassuring them. But I wanted it soon, so I do a bit of a sneak. I think my supposed thing was to support Bay of Bengal into here because you see they had two fleets that could have potentially bounced us out. So I was supposed to support Orissa into Bay of Bengal, but I was like, I want the dot. So I go to Gulf of Ceylon and I tell Madras like move it to Andhra coast because Madras is basically at some point he becomes my right hand, but for now he's like we're working more of on an equal standpoint, but he's still always the goat.
Yep.
And he's always down to do my fun little plans, secretive plays, much like you did with
Yeah. Much like
Chipaya
me and
over
Shafaya,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And like especially as well with how much press there is, it's really easy to just like give one offhanded message like,
yep.
hey, tap on your coast or whatever. And
Whatever,
like the
because I
odds
wanted
people
to.
see it are surprisingly low.
Yeah, I think that's how it went down, or if not, maybe that was later. Anyways, so because if you see here, I'm positioning myself to because from this position we can guarantee enemy lines because they would have Sumatra to support hold, but we have our fleets over here in the Indian Ocean, so we can just tap that because it's adjacent.
Yeah.
Andaman Sea goes back to Tavoy, so we can just have a clean support, and they can't do anything against. They can't tap Andhra Coast. So that was my whole plan to get myself into Andaman Islands. Spring next year, bada bang, free dot. But things did not go as planned, and now we have potentially three rogue armies. Okay, yeah, because they can only build an army, so three rogue armies in the middle of our
Yeah.
alliance. I'll discuss because the aftermath happened more after the phase, so I'll discuss this. I'll go through everything else first. Uh, this side of the alliance
We'll
making
get to that.
progress. We get it to Bhutan at season two late, wonderful. And is this where Rinpoche? No, Rinpoche's fine for
Green
now
Punka
because
dies. No, they don't die, yeah. Because
no,
it
no,
gets
not
Bama gets
much.
trapped.
Yeah, here
Yeah.
becomes the beginning of the long line. I think yeah, because Hanoi gets into the Kunming, Phan Rang walks into Hanoi. Ayutthaya
Oh,
takes
Kuming
this.
dies, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They die.
Yeah.
They're first victims in the region. Would go over here. Chengdu survives here because these guys tap. I don't know what happened. Basically, just this is China dying. They're being split up between Japan and the besties of the North, Turfan and Karakoram over here. Yeah, you can see Japan and China are fighting all. And then yeah. So as I said, Macau subbed out. They put Hainan in charge, and then Hainan decided to start working. At some point, they just full on left the alliance, abandoned China and joined them. Maybe that happened here, but they're full on working with the Golden Federation over here. That's happening over here. Yeah, these guys down here make up for their mistake. Oh, I think that might have been me that got Ceylon to support them into Sumatra. I'm not sure why. I don't know why we had Ceylon support them into, because that wasn't really needed, but I don't remember. But for some reason, we're doing that. Sure. Yeah, Batavia
It
dies.
makes the unit in Sumatra friendly, presumably,
Yeah,
and kills the Batavia unit who
fair
stabbed
enough.
in spring or whatever.
I think I had a
Yeah,
hand in that, and I think I had a good reason, but I don't remember what. Yeah, so you guys are continuing to move into here. They're going into
yeah.
the
Reunion is
Madagascar
supporting you
region.
guys in Swiss Port of Fun.
Very nice. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
Sambas somehow manages to keep Banjar, that they give them the dot so they live. This, I don't believe, was together. This is Flores, I think,
Boris
stabbing for the
stabbed
first time. Yeah,
Timur.
and then
A
I'm not going
bunch
to
of
look at.
nonsense is happening up in Australia where I think Warwick was like the one who's trying to gaslight Gulu into not being in the alliance or well thinking she's in the alliance or something, and then
Clearly,
you
that
can see
doesn't go
that
well for Warwick.
Lynn just gets supported into Warwick.
Farewell. Yeah, that's about it for the general move. So everything's proceeding as planned except for this. So
Yeah.
afterwards, yeah, I think I'll discuss it during the retreats phase. Yeah, is there anything you want to talk about during retreats?
I don't think so. Um,
Because the
I
builds
mean
are
that unit
relevant.
retreats and dies. Other units retreat and die. Like
Yeah, just a bunch of force disbands or just disbands who they're
yeah.
dead anyways.
Oh, pirates got into Caracas, I believe, is relevant. Like Cap
Oh
Haitian is
yeah,
in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of the Venezuela whole thing.
Yeah, so I think that was part of our agreement. Like, hey, we'll let you have that dot and Cartanegra. I think that was the agreement in exchange for them doing the like helping with the SAO there. Oh, another thing, the unit
Yes.
in Guiana Current is Guadalupe. That dies to Antigua's supposed
Oh,
misorder,
oh
um,
yes, Antigua,
which was probably huge for people who were following Pine Hall, but I was not looking in Pine Hall, so I don't really know or care
super
about
tough
how
in
this
Pine
went
Hall.
down. Yeah, but yeah, Guadalupe is dead and Antigua's building,
What's the
and
composition of SAO right now? Do you? Because the colors don't mean anything
so
to me, but
Cabo Verde is in there.
right.
Niani is in there. Cormartin is in there, and Arguin is in there.
Okay, so these are
Um,
four hostile
and
fleets.
one thing,
Oof.
yeah. So four hostile fleets. All from Africa. All as far as I'm concerned from the same alliance. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not great.
And
And you
Africa
lose
had like
Guyana
a bunch
Current.
of memes as well. Yeah, yeah. And we lose Guyana Current as a friendly unit. So Captain Meme was the player in Canon Bornu, and there were some people in Africa memeing about how Africa's like some united alliance that's
Uh,
going to invade South America. There's some copy pasta that
POW was
I
an
didn't commit to
alliance where no
memory.
stabs happen. Ugh, that
Oh yeah, it was
caused me some
like any
headaches.
stab was actually like post arranged or something
Oh
was the
yeah,
meme there.
I was not a fan.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
surprisingly,
anyway, they
it
did have their own
works.
alliances, but they were also working together, and this was a project called
Yeah.
Western Drift.
I'll grab the
And that,
alliance maps for
yeah, yeah.
Africa real
And
quick.
so Western Drift kind of consisted of Western Death Star and the guinea pigs and the line.
The line, right?
So every single alliance on the west coast.
Yeah.
But they were not a mega alliance. Trust, trust.
No, of course not. Just yeah.
Yeah.
I think what it was working in our alliance. I think we had the Dravid region down here working with Marina against Mutapa. Is probably what's happening because they were working with Fort Dauphin over here. I think. But that's pretty much irrelevant. I talked the Pirate Parley a little bit in the beginning of the game, but nothing more than just friendly stuff. So they don't come into much later.
Yeah. So yeah, we can go to builds, I guess.
Yeah, I want to talk about
And one thing to note. Oh, sure, sure.
the four bills because there was negotiations because obviously immediately once Hyderabad kills Goa, I some people start yelling like, "Oh, let's kill them! They betrayed India." And you know that I had noted that the people that were yelling were the islands down here, Ceylon and maybe Maldives, and Rinkunpa over here. All people that are not at all in danger of being killed by the three hostile armies potentially coming in down. So I'm right here, and then there's got Hyderabad here, Ballari there. My dot's empty. I'm not even adjacent to it. I'm down here in Gulf of Ceylon. So
Yeah,
like,
because
guys,
like they just walk into like Penru, Raichu, and like Gondwa or
yeah,
something, right?
and
Like,
none of us
yeah,
have builds. No one else has a build.
no one has a
Only
build, no
them.
one's in position. You can bounce Penru, I guess, so they just go like Raichu, Gondwa, Hyderabad, and then
Yeah, we're cooked. So
something like that. Yeah, you're fucked.
so I'm
Basically,
like,
what it boils
guys,
down to.
let's not do that. No, fuck. I think I specifically say fuck the Constitution. We're not. We're gonna make peace. So we make a couple offers. I think we try to work with Hyderabad because they're the bigger ones. So we're like, okay, how about just be chill. We'll get you to Ballari at some point. We'll make you a kingdom, and then some that kind of gives them delusions of grandeur, which is not really great. We basically we're offering them peace, but then we offer them everything's gonna go great for you. But we say in exchange for that, you need to not build. You void your build as a proof of loyalty to us because if there's three armies and they can just stab again and then double and go to like four, and then we have like it'd be really bad. Like you have
Yeah,
Hyderabad support go into Balaran and take Raja or something. It just could be really bad.
yeah,
And then
it's
there's a
grim either
lot of
way.
negotiations of that. They say no. They like at some point it's like it goes back and forth, back and forth. Like in my void, I'm like, oh, it's so over. We're so back the entire time. And at the end,
Yeah,
they're like, oh yes, okay. They put in the build order. They're like, okay, I'll remove it. I'm voiding the build. I'm like, thank God we get to avoid fighting them and everything. Because remember, I can't
yeah,
really have my other interest in here is I don't want to go back and defend my dot because like
yeah.
someone made a
Because then
plan.
you're
I
not
think
taking a dot.
yeah, Delhi made a comprehensive plan on how we can kill them all and then like and protect everyone from dying. But I have to come back. But I spent a lot of time last year guaranteeing myself I could take Andaman Islands this third, and I want my build. I didn't get my build year one. It's now year two. 2 years without building a chaos game. At the end of the year two, being still on the one dot, not very good. We don't like that.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine that'd be a death sentence, right?
Yeah, so I'm leading the efforts to
Yeah.
make peace with Hyderabad, and eventually we believe we
Mm,
succeed. So they say we avoided the builds, so I'm like, thank God. And then the maps come
yeah.
out, and we built. Yeah, I'll just keep going here for a bit.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Sure.
so then I'm like crashing out. Everyone's rightfully enraged because we don't like being gaslit like that. So we're all mad, and then everyone gets hopped up in the patriotism, like let's kill them, screw everything else, revenge for India, revenge for our fallen comrade Goa. And then they try to explain themselves, and this ended up actually being true. They're like, I tried to remove my order, the bot told me I removed my order, but then the order wasn't actually removed. So because of issues with the bot, where they tried to like input the command to remove the order, but it didn't work, they weren't able to avoid the order. We were like, okay, but to the GMs, can we get that changed? They clearly what they wanted, and the orders, like they sent screenshots from their orders. I think they were allowed to do that, especially specifically for this reason. And they show that they tried to remove the order. So we're talking to the GMs, we're like, can we remove it? And then it takes a while for us to get an answer. And then by the time we like manage to talk to someone, they're like, oh, it's been too late. It's 12 hours into the phase. We can't because you had a tight schedule for the game, right? It's like
Yeah.
it has to go finish by the end of the summer. So it's eight weeks, 11 years, one phase a day. So it's really tight schedule.
Yeah. And if you NMR, you're subbed out.
Yeah,
No graces, no waiting.
and I
Yeah.
think there were barely any extensions the entire time. Like there was never a full day extension, maybe like an hour or two from.
There was never extensions for players. There might be extensions for like the bot fucking up, but
Yeah, that
that
was
was
it.
it.
But we never had like a full day extension. I don't think. But maybe if
Yeah.
there was a holiday, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't think
so
so.
they say the GM say no, and that's just we're mad. Like we were just kind of depressed because everything falls apart because of that. So now we decide to go kill Hyderabad. Notably, we do get Ballari back on side after that. Once we decide to kill, at some point they join. This is when they become part of a district, so they're going to help us with the killing effort. We offer them a dot in exchange for it, and then they're down. So Ballari's not part of Uni. Hyderabad kicked out, and we're going to be working to kill them.
Okay,
You can go ahead.
before you go to okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually completely forgot that this winter was very important. It
Oops.
was very discussed, and we were like, yeah, no, I completely forgot. But yeah, we were like, hey, there's a bunch of scary boats everywhere, and we as the Hive have no boats, and we have way too many armies. So the people who got builds should wave. So Chapaya should wave. Aorio should wave. Notably, Nokugo and Chick get away with not waving because they need to go deal with the Amazon Japura situation above them.
Yeah, that's still
And then
insanely good for
Sharifa
you.
was also supposed, yeah, Sharifa was also supposed to wave. but then he doesn't, and he says, "Oh, I put in the army build as a filler, and then I didn't get home in time to remove it." And like
Hmm.
that's also clearly bullshit, and surely no one believes
Sure.
that. But yeah, either way, he he does not wave, so he has two armies now. And like the idea is like but then they can leave Sao Paulo open, Tupi open, and build fleets in those next year.
Yeah.
Because this is a build anywhere. Like you don't need to core or anything. You don't have home centers. You can just build wherever. And yeah, Chapaya is also going to like he waved so that he can build in Huarpe, and we're trying to figure out a way to have him leave Lika open and have me gain a dot with his help here. And so that's going a bit tough. Also, Huarpe, now I can get into like spring. Huarpe is fucking yapping her ass off, like giving all kinds of like insults to a Chiripa for being like an evil backstabby player, trying to like rally her alliance and trying to rally everyone outside of South America. Hey, the hive is evil and they should die, and you can get dots if you come kill them. Um, and like that's scary because people are gonna listen to her maybe. So we instead or instead I offer her like, hey, you should flip, you should join the hive. Like we want more active pressers, and like we want less active pressers to be against us. We can get you into probably like rank or touche, not rank or touche, sorry. Rank is hive, so not rank, that's obviously off limits. We can get you into like 2 Capel, right? And then you'll stay alive, we can help you get dots down there, and everything will be great, and you won't die. And the reason you won't die is because you're cool and you talk a lot, and that's useful. Yeah. And this kind of she's like kind of agreeing, but not super agreeing. And then she's at the same like she's agreeing with us kind of like yeah sure, and then she's also talking to like Chiloe and Tukapel, about like hey Nesters, how are we still gonna solve this, and all that stuff. Yeah. So meanwhile, I believe Tripa is saying like, hey, maybe we can try to pop my extra army so that I get to like have the build open anyway. Um, I don't think there's many other plans. In the north, I wasn't really paying attention to how, but like people were supposedly gonna go kill. There was a big question of like, should we leave Amazon in the hive, not as a leader maybe, but like should we let them in the hive, even though they kind of stabbed, because like they're saying it's a misorder and they had a guaranteed dot, so why would they walk into a different
Yeah.
one? Yada yada. But it's just like you can't really leave Amazon alive. Like, how do you? What dots do you get if you're leaving Amazon alive here? Meanwhile, like Japur, everyone's like, oh, that guy stabbed too. We also need to kill him, but like we can't actually reach him. Like, that's a bit of a mess. Ultimately, it's like very unclear how this is actually happening. I believe as well, Quella had an agreement that after helping Chick into Chumia in Sprit in O1, they would get it in O2, and they're like, hey, let's keep this agreement. I want this dot. Madeira, who's currently in Exura, wants their dot back in Madeira. I don't know exactly what's happening. A lot of stuff. But what I do know is that there's an army next to Weenhayek, which I don't love. I don't hate because I think it's never going to stab me in spring. But I'm like, I may as well cover Weenhayek. And what's more important here is that we're kind of trying to figure out how to get me a second dot so that Chipai is on two and I'm on two. And I want my dots to be next to each other and both inland, so I have an excuse to have two armies, and so that I'm basically like impossible to kill. And if you kind of look at the geometry here, if I'm in Weenhayek and I'm in Chapaya, it's really hard to break into any of my dots. Already, like from there I can like walk into Mia to go take Chiquianto or whatever. I can walk into Aoreo. I can even try to go Mia and then Quella. Like I have a lot of options, and it's very like comfy for me. So I really want to like my second dot to be Chapaya. Well, the player in Chapaya walks into Huarpe and builds a fleet in Lika. That's ideal for me. And so kind of my whole press approach here is to make that happen. So Huarpe works with us. We're going to support her into a dot in the south. Chapaya is going to walk into Huarpe. I'm going to walk into Chapaya. Yeah. And then if you go look at Africa, because that's very relevant to me, you'll see that Mali waves his build. this was a big show. I didn't actually follow it. I just saw, oh, they waved, and they're probably gonna keep working together and go kill us, and that's bad. So I don't love that. Um, but yeah, and then I think they're discussing. So notably as well, the army in Regibat is gone, or the army in Ragebait, however you say it.
You gotta say
Regibat.
rage bait.
Uh, yeah, you gotta say Ragebait. So kind of the only African army that's like in a spot to convoy is the army in Notse. Um, One thing about the actual alliance structure of Africa is that it's a hug box and everyone's in one alliance, but also like kind of Wag and Timbuktu and everyone to the west of that is in an alliance called Western Death Star, and then Great Ardra, Benin, and Fernando Po are in a different alliance, and Sao Tome, those four are in a different alliance called Guinea Pigs. And if you look at all the fleets here, Gold Coast is a Guinea Pigs fleet, but every other unit here is a Western Death Star fleet, basically. There's a couple, the Line fleets as well. The Line pretend that they're relevant to this. They're never actually relevant. They're just helping for no reason, in my opinion. But yeah. So I'm sure that Africans have a lot of commentary on this politics. For me, as someone who is trying to kind of break apart this happening a bit, and like I'm not really doing that yet, but I am looking like, okay, and I don't think I noticed this immediately in spring. I think I might notice it in fall or later. But like, okay, the army that's getting convoyed in is not doing any of the actual effort to get them dots, right? That's kind of key. There's a bunch of people with like exposed dots and their fleets 2 moves away, and yeah. Anyway, another thing is that the plan here is to just convoy and force Maristad. Which means 4 fleets. One of them's convoying, the other 3 are supporting. I think they had some system for how they could coordinate it a bit closer to deadline, but in reality, like you kind of have to be specific enough here that like people know what to do. And then if you look at us, we have an army in Baja and a fleet in South Sebastio, and a fleet in St. Marcos Bay. And then the unit in Marstead itself is still not a member of the Hive, but is someone who like we have a vested interest in keeping alive. So I think we just put 4 support holds on it, and that's the plan. But yeah, Africa, because they see, oh, they can't actually break this like this. I believe they're trying to talk to Bellum and flip Bellum, and Bellum is being a bit sneaky with like whether he's actually going to flip or not, and I think neither side really knows yet. But I believe he's telling Africa like, yeah, no, I'm not going to support hold Marstad or tap you or whatever. I'm not going to help the Hive here. Just get me a dot later. Get me South Sebastio after. And I believe he's telling the Hive, yeah, of course I'm supporting Marstad. I'm going to die if Africa starts to push armies in. So yeah, I think that's everything in my region that I know of, at least. I'm sure there's other stuff that I didn't care about.
Okay. All right. And yeah, so that side went first on that one. So I think we can probably move on to spring moves, unless you have something else you'd want to. Don't think there was any other relevant builds except the Hyderabad. Here we have Ayutthaya building a fleet. This Kunming, this bands, and that's pretty much it. I guess Kabul did get a build over here from the
Yeah,
Arcan who dies. That's pretty much it. All right, so you can go ahead with spring moves.
yeah. So I walk back into Weenhayek. There's no one near me, kind of, but like Chick did stay next to me. Um, yeah, other things. Tripa walks into Zeta, and I believe again what's being said here is okay, and then I will support you into Zeta in fall so that I can disband the army or something. Or no, I think
Uh,
it's the idea
yeah,
is
because that you can't do
Baya
that.
will walk into Zeta with no Baya support. You can't do this. No, this is true. This does not work. But I think the area player is new and doesn't know this isn't true.
Oh my God,
But yeah, Baya
downpour.
walks into
Yeah.
Zeta, Baya supports Baya into Zeta, and then Stripa can kill the unit in Zeta to build a fleet. Yeah. Oh, you can see actually they don't fully commit to Marstad here. They do walk into some other sea tiles, which is annoying. I think they like saw that clearly we're waving to get some extra builds, but we
Yeah,
tapped the Rio Grande Reefs
yeah. So all
fleet.
they get
There's only
is
a full
this
fleet
one
in
over here.
Bonambra Bay. Yeah, and that's annoying. With Warpe, you can see that Chapaya is walking or tapping Huarpe, and then if you scroll down a bit, you'll see
Oh
that
yeah.
she gets support. Yeah, she gets support into rank from Tukapel, who's in her alliance. So she's kind of playing both sides right now. Like, she's
Which
being
ranks
friendly
in
with us
your
in the hopes that we
ranks in the B's, right?
rank is a B, yeah.
Okay.
And I believe she was technically supposed to walk to like Ruka Pilan and then get support into Tukapelan Falls or something, some nonsense. I didn't really care. I just wanted Chapaya to get into Huarpe, and that works out. Except this Chiloe fleet goes to
Yeah, I was about to
Rogavine
say.
Basin. So now Chapaya has a fun little 50-50 because if Chiloe taps Huarpe, he wants to hold. If Chiloe taps Lika, he wants to tap Lika and bounce. And if he gets it wrong, then like it's not great, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, hey, I really want the build. Please don't take Chapaya yet, because then I'm either going +3 or +2, and either way I'm getting a build. I'm like, no, I do want to take Chapaya. I want to get myself up to 2 as well.
Yeah, you don't want your
And
neighbor to go
so
to 3 either while you're on 1.
yeah, I don't want this guy on 3 while Chapaya is like his open build slot again. Um, but yeah, he's also talking to me a bit. I also mention like or he mentions like, hey, because I think Huarpe is not supposed to be in rank. So I believe the idea is kind of that we're gonna like support back into rank here. We're gonna take rank back, and then she's not gonna have a dot anymore because Chipai is taking Huarpe. And so then he's like, I think the idea is like either he keeps Huarpe and Huarpe dies, but we're getting some dots for us for the hive, or like Huarpe doesn't die. And And in the end, right before the education, because I was actually genuinely busy this day, I'm pretty sure. It's like, Ween, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep Huarpe alive? Or do you want to like kill her off? And I say I want to keep her alive, you know. But then he doesn't change his order in time. But
Oh,
meanwhile, I've spent the entire phase with my Weenhayek to Chapaya order in, obviously. Which I wasn't supposed to do for in the keep her alive angle, right? I think that was like the compromise. Either he stays in Huarpe, but I get to top Chapaya, and then we're probably both going to 2, or he walks out of Huarpe to keep her alive. Then I don't take Chapaya, so he can try to still get his build or whatever. And he was also a bit annoyed that I didn't stay in Witchy, because if I'd stayed in Witchy, then we could have just self-bounced in Lika. But I'm very happy that I didn't stay in Witchy, because now I can't be forced to self-bounce to Lika and give him another
yeah.
build. Yeah, so yeah. And I mean, you can see I still didn't stab anyone yet, but like, I'm now kind of stabbing Chapaya, who was the person who I helped in spring, and like, my close ally, you know?
Yeah. What's going
Yeah.
on in north over here?
Up
Ezio's
here,
being support held.
so I think this was still on the let's work with Ezio because he did get stabbed and maybe he did make a genuine mistake arc. But like for Japur, it's so easy to counter this because he just tapped the Madeira so it
Oh
can
yeah.
support and then move into Goyas and then like they can't really do anything here. Worth noting, Amazon could just walk into Bellum here, but he's not going to. But Bellum is also saying, hey, do not like try to take Amazon back because then he just retreats to Bellum and I die. And he's really worried about
Yeah.
that too, I think.
Amazon's in
Yeah.
a really good position here. Well, Japura.
Yeah. Jaipur is in a very nice position here. Amazon less so, I'd say. But like
Yeah,
this is just
Amazon
really
less.
hard to break into at all, especially in public press, where this player has 2 units that have no communication needed, but every other player around him needs to communicate exactly what their moves are for like things to go to coordinate well.
Yeah. Are
Yeah.
these armies over here coming against him? Going?
I think these are like kind of half hive, half not hive members. Again, I don't know. I don't fucking know
Yeah.
what's going on with most of the
You're
hive.
down
I know
here.
like I know me, I know Chapaya, I know Chiripa, and right now that's it.
Very fair.
Like I don't actually care what the rest of the people are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Over
yeah, if you
in
look at,
the Atlantic.
you'll see that they did doubles. Oh, actually, you'll see that Bellum did try to support the convoy, but it just wasn't enough
Oh,
because they had the fleets going out onto the coastline as well. So Bellum just stabbed here, yeah.
yeah, full on.
But yeah, the convoy doesn't go through because
That's good.
3 against 3, like simple math.
Saint
And they could
Helena.
have walked into like photos, but they didn't. Other than that, like I don't know, they'd walk into some extra slots again. Now they have five
Yeah,
fleets
like we
in
said.
South Atlantic Ocean
All right,
because
no
there's
one
like zero hive
contests.
fleet, and like the only hive fleet we had just stabbed us basically. So like now it's a bit hopeless.
I would assume
Honestly, and
Guyana
like
Current gets backfilled. Yeah,
Guyana Current is like not technically a hive member, I think, but like kind of maybe. Up for the Pirates, they're self bouncing. They're like super bouncing St. Lucia even, I guess. Squid Antigua built an army, which I think was like the compromise for like not killing him after his stab because they didn't want to deal with that.
yeah, fair enough.
Also, an army gets convoyed into Cartanegra. But I think that bounces.
Yeah, it only has one
Yeah,
support and it
support
gets
hold. It's
support
2 and
held.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's
What else
other
is
random
out?
stuff happening. I don't know what this Jamaica move is doing, for example, but
Oh well.
yeah.
I think that's it
Anyway,
for. So yeah.
yeah, that's it for me.
Okay. So here, yeah. I mean, generally we're putting into place the kill Hyderabad plan, and it goes pretty smoothly. So for me, yeah, my move is basically because Hyderabad, like, we can go to Raichur over here, and if they do, then I kind of have to bounce it. So my year really depends on what moves Hyderabad choose to do because they're guaranteed to die this turn, or at least next year. They're guaranteed death without killing anyone, so they can do whatever they want. Basically, it's not going to change. But the outcome that can be changed is who's actually affected by the moves. And thankfully here it's not me. They're going up north here. They're putting two on Raja, two on Delhi. Yeah, Surat gets sent
I mean,
into
they just
Goa.
like support themselves with Bellari. They never die, right?
Mm, yeah, then yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There's definitely yeah, maybe Bellari can die. I don't maybe not this year, yeah, but we had a plan guaranteed to end them at some point, and then maybe they
I
were
don't know.
still
They
hoping
die with
Bellari would
these
help
moves, but
them.
like if they'd, yeah, maybe they were convinced that Bellari would help. I don't know. It's
I don't
weird.
remember, but yeah,
Um,
a lot of the
yeah,
strange moves. Anyways, yeah, so here
yeah.
we go for like a full retreat. Rajai goes back to Orissa to cover this, and Pegu takes the opportunity to sneak into Bay of Bengal. But Kolkata backfills Morocco, so we're still looking kind of fine. I'm the Madras is going to Gulf of Mannar. I'm going up to Andrew Coast to cover my dot, but thankfully I'm not gonna have to do that, so I'm just free. Over here, the B1G continues to make a progress, or no, actually that's they're not making progress. Oh yeah, okay, okay, yeah, the errors are a bit confusing, but yeah, so that's going into Malaga Strait, and then they're keeping um, Kota Batu over here out of Nakhon Sea, but they're still making progress on this one. Andaman's just chilling. I don't know what they're doing at this point. They weren't really that active, but they were kind of a crucial piece to the puzzle because they was straight bang in the middle of the three alliances. So it's really they played pretty well for the situation they were stuck in. Is this when? Yeah, this is when Rinpoche, I believe, gets dislodged. And is that a yeah? That's a
They have
forces
a
ban
Bhutan
into
retreat, right?
Bhutan. Oh yeah, because Bhutan. Yeah,
Yeah, because Bhutan moves into Bama.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, this is the beginning of the end for Rinpoche, but we're at least making progress against the Gold Federation. But that's
Yeah,
not. I want to be making progress. I want to be pushing into Andaman Pegu Deloy.
yeah.
This is not.
It's the wrong people making
It's
progress.
fine. Yeah, I don't love that one. No, we're not loving that. Over here, they're fighting. Yeah, so Malacca Comp. I think maybe by this point they've unified into MTF. I'm gonna go check the alliance map real quick. We are into spring 1643. Yeah, so over here they've all united into MTF. So the Malacca Compact over here, the B1G Alliance, and TTF for this massive Pacific Alliance.
I have no clue what this
That's
stood for, by the way.
yeah. In my head, I've had like major trade federation, but I know that's not it. But
I think
I don't
it's
know.
just like
Maybe it didn't really.
Mandalon, Tasman, Friends or something.
That could be,
I
but
don't
then there's
know.
no. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're gonna keep calling
Like
it
they just
MTF.
kind of merged their old alliance
Yeah,
names, but
they're super alliance because they're super important here because they've become the newest mega alliance over here. Before it was just a couple of
yeah,
smaller players, but then yeah. So I'm working very
yeah.
tightly with them, coordinating generally with Sambas because they're one of the biggest leaders. I'm also talking with Sumatra and Kota Batu. Kota Batu is also important, but generally Sambas is one of the biggest. And then you see over here they're still dealing with Flores, who is a bit of a rogue agent at this point. They're bouncing out. There's more fun stuff that happens with Flores later. Philippines
Yeah.
are just chilling. Japan and China still vibing. And then we have another important moves that happen, which is uh, the wonderful Elle and Madurai chilling in Indian tree decides to go on a field trip to New Holland in Australia for no reason. And that really pisses off because, like, if you saw on the alliance map, there's this one suspiciously brown orange province over here called the Dravid District in MTF, and that's Ellie going to New Holland
Yeah.
because she puts the chaos in World of Chaos. She definitely likes making some crazy plays, which I don't love because I'm trying to keep everything organized, and I don't want MTF mad at me because I want MTF to help me push into Ayutthaya over there. But then that creates a lot of chaos because we're like, okay, like they're all over here clamoring for her death, and we're like, we don't obviously we don't want that happening because it's a useful fleet. But yeah, eventually we make a deal where like, okay, Ellie says she'll chill, she'll go back, and then they're gonna be fine with that. But generally, like that's the beginning of some tensions between us and because obviously if we see we're both like them and India, we're both strong alliances facing the Pacific, so there's always going to be some kind of conflict around there. But that was the beginning of some tensions. And then finally over
Yeah.
here you've got um, the Dravid district pushing down into Madagascar still. I don't know if any progress is being made, but it's not super important. The big takeaway yeah, for this round for me is that with Hyderabad going for those moves, that still puts me in position to maybe be able to get a build. We'll see if I'm able to sneak something in, but I'm definitely more hopeful after this turn than the basically depression of
Yeah.
last winter.
You're at least not like about to die or anything right now,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
you're not going for your
The
yeah.
only unit that's adjacent to my dot is my own, and that's always good.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we can go to those retreats. Not much in retreats for me. We had, yeah, as you said, Ring Punkta going over to Bhutan. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Over here there's a forward retreat actually, and I think this was kind of intentional
Oh,
by them. They bounced the other sea tile and then get to
right.
retreat into Todos Os Santos because like this is like intentional, right? This isn't like a
Yeah, yeah.
hostile unit getting supported in. They
That's
supported themselves in on a unit that was bouncing, so they kept our fleet back and then still get into whatever sea tile they were going to try to get into, which is Todos Dos Santos here.
yeah.
And then that's
And that,
another fleet that's now in position to help with Maristad, but it's also now this Baiha army that was protecting Maristad is now scared of his own dot getting taken.
oh yeah. So
So it's
he
actually
kind
really
of has to
annoying.
cover his own.
And we have no fleets protecting us basically, especially up there. They
And
have
you've
two
got the
fleets now
trade
that are in
code
our
over
sea
here,
tile.
and then all you've had
There's
is
a trade code. Yeah, and then like the fleets up there, I believe they're technically part of the hive now. Like you can look at the map mode if you want. Maybe you'll see
sure.
that like
I'll
it's
go
a
see
massive
this.
mess. Like and like I think if you look at this, so
YMCA.
Poland Ridge turned into Granola. YMCA is now an alliance, but I think in the spring they were part of our alliance, and like it's just. But then I think they were like, oh, go eat Marstad and everything south, and don't eat us in the north, please. We're gonna be a different alliance now. I think that was the
YMCA seems to still
sell
be
they did to
standing.
Africa. Yeah.
I've
And
never
yeah, I
heard that
mean,
name in my life. I don't think I've
yeah,
heard that
I
about
don't
that the
know how
entire
long this
game.
will last. This alliance, yeah. I I don't think I've heard this name for an alliance before either. So, and I was in
Oh
this
well.
region.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Anyway,
I think that's it for retreats. Yeah,
so
we
yeah,
can go.
I already kind of talked about fall as
Yeah,
well, actually, on the moves. But yeah, um, we can just go straight to fall moves.
we
Then
can
you can
go
see
as
I do
planned.
walk
Yeah.
into Chapaya. You can see that Rog doesn't even try to tap either of these
Oh, that's great.
spots.
Oh, because
You
they're
can see that
bouncing.
because they're trying to bounce Chiloe, except there's
Oh, it doesn't
three
work right.
MTF fleets in there, two of them from the same person, so they lose Chiloe anyway.
The other one's probably
Um,
Danny. It's Danny in New Zealand.
the other one is Danny, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, you can see Tu Capel was supposed to support Hold Huarpe in rank, I believe, but instead stabbed Chiloe to take whatever the province down there is called.
Yeah.
And then you can see
Oh, Chiloy
Hive is
lives.
supporting Hive into Tushen. Um, Hive is supporting rank back into rank. And Chiloe stabs for Islas Malvinas. Oh, Islas I
Right,
never talked about
Islas.
this player. But this player's whole thing was they were the cat go spinny player. They wanted to circumnavigate the world, and they were like, "Hey, all the alliances around me, I'm not gonna like do anything bad to you because I'm just trying to circumnavigate the world. Please don't kill me." I guess they got all the way into Southern Sea here, but they do die here
Yeah.
because they got killed by one of the alliances around them.
And
Um,
that
and
actually
another
becomes
very
relevant
interesting
later
thing.
on at the end of the game. Well, no spoilers,
Yeah.
but
Uh, another thing that's very, very relevant here. There's a couple, but you can see Madeira gets back into Amazon, but Amazon doesn't get into. Madeira gets back into Madeira. Amazon doesn't get into Japura, even though they get the support from Shipibo.
yeah,
Lima stabs Quito. So in the end, Japura is still at 2 dots. And Amazon just dies outright here.
and
Um,
Madeira gets a build.
and then Madeira gets a build in Axura, which can hopefully be a fleet, surely, trust. And then if we look at the kind of elephant in the room, the Green Nation there, the one who was going to get supported into his own unit to supposedly dislodge it, just does what
Oh right,
everyone
yeah.
paying
This
attention to what
they
he's
go to
been
4.
saying. He walks into 2 dots, unopposed, goes to 4.
Year
Um,
2.
you can see that, yeah, you're 4 dots. That's the most you can have. You can see that Nokugo actually covers Sao Paulo here, which is fine because they didn't have a build. You can see that we don't end up supporting Maristad, and St. Marcos actually taps Sao Sebas. And then, yeah,
Well, they promise.
so
Oh no, they can't even get support. Never mind.
can't get support. I think it was like just cutting the support, but like
Yeah, they're
with
just
a bit
helping
more
out.
upside of maybe the unit walks out for no reason.
Fair enough.
But yeah, the convoy goes off now, and it's still a great Ardres unit in Notse getting convoyed in.
Yep.
Yeah, Quelle also walks into Chimaya and now has a build. This was, I'm pretty sure, agreed. And yeah, but the big thing, obviously, at least in the Hive, is that Sharifa just stabbed to go +2. And a lot of people are mad about that. And so the
Yeah.
main person who's leading the being mad about that is Nokugo. She pings every member of the Hive. She says like, "Hey, this guy is a false king. He's a stabber. You give him one chance, he has to wave his new build, the inland one, and build a fleet in Mumbai. And if he does this, and then gives away the dot after, he will forfeit his crown. But like everyone, we all need to coalition him. Um, I don't care about this. I don't want to be fighting this because that's not
Yeah.
going to get me any dots. On either side, honestly, like
You
I
didn't
just
care
walk into the
about
dot. You know what?
like a lot of people did. Like I know a lot like all
Yeah.
across the board. Like I
So
was
like
coming in over here in their channel. Like guys, we got a coalition down 4. He's getting too strong. Chiripa
yeah.
guys,
So like
all across the
Rio,
board.
Minas, Salvador, all very much cared. Prom cared, Charua cared, I believe Aorio cared. Obviously, like, I mean, he got stabbed. Of course, he cares. Minue, I don't know if this player cared. They were kind of too far to care, but I'm pretty sure they did because again they got stabbed. But they don't die because they get support into Touche. And
Right.
one thing Tripa did say is, "Hey, but look at like all the tactics I set up. I made sure that no one would die from these moves. Like you lose
That's
some
fair.
dots, but you guys aren't dying." And to be fair, that is true. But like, yeah, he did still stab a bunch of people. He's a massive threat. Yeah, the other fun little thing is that in retreats, there's like the kind of evil version of Prisoner's Dilemma. Horpe is dead, and Tush is dead, but both can retreat into Tukapel, which is an open dot.
Oh, right.
However, if they both retreat there, they'd still both die. And so Horpe, credit to her, does some very good press convincing Tushen that like she's more active, she's gonna like avenge the nest, and they should let her live. And yeah. And I'm obviously rooting for Huarpe as well because I like the player and because like she's quite active in press. But yeah, you can see that in the end, Sharipa did not end up, or Chapai, I mean, did not end up moving out of Huarpe. But he has Lika open to build because Chiloe didn't even try for either dot.
Yep.
Um, I tap him in Chapaya. I have a build. I don't even have a port yet, so like I'm not gonna wave this for 2+ years to get an army or to get a fleet. I'm just gonna build an army. That's perfect. You
Yeah.
know, I get an army, and there's suddenly a lot less armies around me as well, right? Because one
I
of the
know you're
chick
looking
armies
good.
dies. Aorio can't build.
Quella's gonna be building.
Lupa's gonna build a bunch. Quella's getting a build.
Are they
But
avoiding
like
milk?
those aren't
Because
as good.
They can wait a year and
They
then
are
build.
building.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah. Yeah, he could, but he does say he wants to build because he's a bit spooked by how stabby the hive has been.
Yeah.
This is where I ping him like, hey, we're both gonna build. Obviously, like it's stupid to wave here. It's too unstable. But let's like DMZ Mia and Guipi. Is it Guipi? The little tiny province kind of on the coast up there. Let's DMZ those two, and then let's also do our best to keep Chapaya and Quella themselves empty as well. Obviously we can't like fully DMZ those because we have to build there right now, but let's try to move those units out and keep that DMZ'd as well. And so this is kind of the start of a triple between me, Chapaya, and Quilla here, where we're working together, and like if we go to the alliance map mode for actually maybe we should go to retreats first, right? I don't know, just to like see how everything unfolds correctly. I don't know if you want to talk about India still, but
I do the but I can show retreats for you first, and I'll go back.
yeah,
Yes.
sure. So like there's not really any relevant retreats here, but this is kind of how the map looks now. And yeah, there's these factions forming around. Do we want to still work with? The big one is obviously Huarpe gets into Tukapel. Um, yeah, there's these factions forming about. Do we want to kill Chiripa? Do we want to still work with Chiripa? There's this massive problem of like the African army now in Maristad, along with a full like SAO Death Star and a
Oof.
backstabbing Bellum, and these fleets all along our coast.
Are those 5
Saint
hostile
Helena dies
fleets?
here. These are 5 hostile fleets. Yes.
Oof. Is Bellum still with
Um,
the working with the Africans at this point? Do
Yeah,
you
he
know?
did in fall. He did in
Yeah.
fall.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean you can see as well how empty like West Africa is. There are no units there except some armies.
Yeah, you've got Mali still
Mali
there.
ended up giving the dot he stabbed for to Timbuktu because people were like Timbuktu is reliable, so let's give him that dot.
Yeah, so
And then
they're both
Mali is
just
just
sitting
going
on
to
their
be forced
dots
into
after 2 years.
yeah, and I believe they're like forcing a bunch of bounces basically. Like you will bounce in like Niamni with Ouagadougou, or you will bounce in Timbuktu with like the unit in Olata or whatever. And if you don't do that, then we just kill you. And like you're not even getting a dot for like your stab. You're giving
Good
someone else a
God.
dot for your stab. Um, and so again, the sensible thing is obviously, oh well, Ouagadougou walks into Quorum, Mali walks into Jebba to then take like Ndakaru or Fort Jacob. Timbuktu, who just built an army, can move like on to taking like Iji or taking Agadas or whatever. There's so much that can happen here. And like this is where I start kind of involving myself in it more too. But I'll get to that like in winter. So if you want
Yeah.
to go over India now,
But yeah, just generally like South America after
yeah,
2 years, y'all are not in the greatest position. You've got
complete
the
complete shit
pirates coming
show.
in from over here. Are they going to want more?
Yeah.
You've got Africans invading from over here.
Oh
Downpour
yeah,
going
that's also true.
crazy.
The pirates got into Cartagena with an army as well, so like they're just gonna keep pushing
Yeah.
now.
And then you've got even the Oceanians invading, just
Yeah, like
everywhere
NTF.
besieged.
MTF is in Chiloe. They renamed to Polynesia, I believe, at this point,
Right.
which is like a lot nicer than Aotearoa. I don't know.
Yeah, thank God.
I'm not.
No one's pronouncing
Yeah.
that. All right. I'll go
Yeah.
over to fall. I'll talk about it a bit before because there was some interesting negotiations. So this is the state a bit before fall. Right, so we were all in position. They're going to be able to kill them fully because the Raja's going to cover his dot over here. So Saram's going to actually. I think they die here. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong about. I'm in the wrong spot because but I'm trying to look at how they can die. But anyways, we'll see that. It's not really relevant to me. I don't really remember how that all ends up going, but it doesn't go well for Hyderabad, is all we'll say. My dot's not in danger, so I can just focus on the rest, right? And I'm looking, okay, what's available here? Andaman Islands. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get into that. I'm asking B1G because I did have a deal with them about getting into Andaman Islands at some point. So I'm trying to make that value, but then they're at the same time trying to get into Nakansi because yes, at some point I think probably around now, maybe the season early, they flipped Tavoy. So Tavoy is now on the side of MTF over here. and they're fully in the alliance, and they're gonna be helping them kill Nakan C and the rest of the Golden Federation, which is these guys were really not happy about that. But so that makes it a lot easier for us to make progress, basically, because they're in the heart of the alliance, right? But they can't be attacked by anyone else. Aitai is empty, Chiang Mai is empty, Pegu's all the way over here, so they're not threatening, but they're able to do a lot of damage. So the big debate that was happening here during this phase would be like who was getting a build between Sambas and Kotabatu. Kotabatu wanted to be supported into Nakansi by Tavoy, right? And then
Yeah.
Sambas wanted Sumatra to be supported into it so that they could walk back into Sumatra and take Sumatra's dot without building. So Sambas,
Isn't
they
it
were like, I'm gonna want to
already
be
at two?
yeah, they're already at two. But they're like, I'm gonna be a
Yeah.
kingdom, guys. This is kind of the meta argument. I'm gonna be a kingdom, I'm
Mhm.
gonna vassalize you guys, and then we're all gonna start getting more points. We're gonna point max. We love point maxing, guys. So that was their arguments. And then Katamatu was like, no, I want a dot. You're on two. I'm on a one. I want to be, you can't be on three. And then, so I got very involved into that argument because it was people talking. It was Katamatu, Sambas, Sumatra was away for most of it, and then me and then Tavoy because we were basically all trying to convince Tavoy because they were kind of the kingmaker because they could support either Sumatra or Kutayan. And my basically pawn in the game here was that if Kota's being supported in Nakansi, then Sumatra has nothing else to do, and they can support me into Animal Islands while Makassar over here or Batavia, which is Banjar, and Sambas can bounce in Sumatra to avoid them dying from the retreat. So I'm really working to convince them, and then at some point, Sambas manages to convince them up to their sides, but I keep complaining, and it lasts up and right into Aju, and I get to switch to switch. So Tavoy agrees to support Kota into Nakansi, which would leave Sumatra be able to support me into Andaman Islands. So then we all that, we're like really happy. And I ping Sumatra to tell them to support me in, and they don't answer. They were not there. There's like 10 minutes left before the phase, and I'm just, ugh. Because it was so close, but it was literally all for nothing. But then I actually had a backup plan, thankfully, to deal with that. Indian Ocean's fully empty. That's interesting. Because as you can see, we have Madras over here who's next to Madurai because they were there to protect it in case probably Bellari was if Bellari went rogue and sent stuff down here to the south to cover Madurai or bounce. Anyways, they were here for a good reason. And so they're next to Madurai. And I'm thinking, maybe because I don't want to like hard stab the alliance because like if you have two armies in the middle, it's a lot harder to come people to come kill you if you have one random fleet on the coast and the other like surrounded by everyone. So if I hard stab here and everyone decides to go against me, there's nothing I can do. I'm basically dead. So I want to be able to get a dot without getting coalition. So like I can just walk into Madras here. No one else is surrounding it because I think at some point Madras was like wondering, should I go to Paliakar or should I go to Gulf of Mannar? And I'm like, I'm going to Gulf of Mannar. That's a better idea because then I notice they're not adjacent to their dot anymore. So I could just take it with impunity if I want
Yeah.
to. So I'm thinking maybe if I can get Madras into Madura and then I just snipe their dot, they're alive, and then Madurai, Elle over here's in New Holland, and she had agreed to move back to Indian Ocean and not try anything more in Australia, not try to snipe. Because you can see Gulu and Warrock are both empty here. They have a bunch of units adjacent, but they can theoretically maybe be sniped. So I'm thinking, okay, I can pretty much read what Ellie's going to do. There's no shot she's ever going to be going ahead with the plan. She's definitely still going to stab. So what if we do a preemptive punitive expedition and I just ask Madras to kill her while walking into Madras' dot? So that's a bit of more of a risky play of just getting the guaranteed support into Animal Islands. So I was kind of not wanting to do that, but then there's 5 minutes left in the phase, and I can't get Animan. So I'm like, yo, Madras, let's do I'm like doing a bit of a sneaky. I think it does get caught. I think someone sees it before the end. Maybe with 1 minute left, but then there's nothing they can do to stop it because there's no other adjacent units. But I think someone sees it. I'm like, oh, let's kill the wild card or
Yeah.
something like that. I'm trying to be a little bit sneaky with my plays, but it doesn't really matter. But then I was debating whether I just tell Madras that I'm taking her daughter or not. I was like kind of a bit paranoid about getting coalition because of how like rah India everyone was. So I ended up telling
Yeah.
them I have like a shitty excuse. I'm like, It's to like preserve the balance or something. But then, so I'm gonna take your dot, and they
Yeah, of course.
agreed.
It's better to have me on to than you on to.
Yeah, so but they genuinely agree. So they're like, okay, sure. And that was like, oh wow for me. Thank God, somehow that worked. So if you go to the full moves, uh, Madras takes Madurai. I think Madras, and yeah, okay. Oh yeah, so that's right. Good. I was confused a little bit earlier, but I thought Gondwana was a dot for a second, but we were already occupying Goa, so we just get Balar into Hyderabad, and that takes, and then
Yeah.
bye bye Hyderabad. We defend everything perfectly. So, yeah. And then if you go down here, you can notice that, as I predicted, Ellie did not go back and she stabbed for Rook. So that was my big. I think I was right to not do anything sneaky and get Madas to agree because I really needed him to be on my
Yeah.
side here and help because everyone was
I think
really mad at us.
if he disagrees and they see this as you stabbing, then you just die after, right? Like there's a
Yeah, 100%.
unit in Raja now.
Yeah.
Like Madurai just moves up in power.
I think
Or
Anaman
like
would have
yeah,
been
Bellari
glad to
kills
help because I've been trying to
you,
kill them for
and
two
then
years.
Japan kills you.
Ballari has two armies. It's just really bad.
Yeah.
And then they agree. So people, a lot of people are mad. I think Ceylon and Maldives here, their units are way the fuck away, but they're mad at me. I think Delhi was kind of on the fence, and other people were definitely not pleased. But then I got Cochin was I think generally vouching for me. Cochin did not particularly like Madura. I don't think. I think they found him to be
Mhm.
too much of a loose cannon. So after a lot of negotiation, they got kind of heated. But we people generally agreed that okay, it's fine. You guys get a pass for that one or preemptive strike. And if Ellie didn't stab either, if she won't agree with the
Yeah.
plan,
If she
even if
went
she
into
would get
IL, it's probably a lot worse for you
yeah, because then people we just kill some of
because
the
then you're not
civilians and
justified. But
yeah.
here they yeah.
So
And to be
we
fair, if she INO, she always dies. That's just stupid. Why would she ever not stab after you said, "Hey, we're killing Ellie because we think she's gonna stab"? It is self fulfilling, but like,
yeah we
yeah,
preemptively executed the justice of the Constitution.
yeah,
If you look at the rest of the moves, Flores is doing Flores things. These guys they do
yeah,
bounce in Sumatra. Uh, we got to avoid the change to order. No, no, wait, no.
mm,
Yeah, so just so that was still fine, but like yeah, so Sumatra didn't change the order, so they're moving it to Nakhon C, but it doesn't mess with us or anything. Pegu's covering their dot, which is good for us because we don't have to deal with them in Bengal.
yeah.
Rinpoche does die because over here you've got Kathmandu getting
Mm,
Kathmandu gets supported into it.
put it instead.
I don't know the
Yeah,
context around there, but Rinpoche was I guess they were on the fence kind of about being with us or not, so maybe they weren't being loyal enough, but Kathmandu gets their dot instead. I don't remember the
yeah.
context behind that. But that's interesting. And then yeah, we don't take Damo. That still stays inside of the
I
control.
mean, you were never taking it when Sassuram has to tap Gondwana or Gondwana,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah,
They had Zinning on side, but then that get Lanzhou and Uighur from the besties
yeah.
over here. It takes it, so that stops it. And
Mhm.
then yeah, Japan continues to be fighting here. Chengdu has flipped, and they're now what part of the shogunate. That's going to be relevant. Chengdu is a very interesting player, as we'll see later. But yeah, so they're with Japan. They're
Yang is
eventually
the one in
in
Nanjing,
progress.
right?
Yeah, that's Pyongyang. Pyongyang's also going to be relevant. Oh, and then you got Firebender doing their big stab over here. I think they stabbed last year also, and now here they're taking Amani and Okinawa, who were both pretty important players. I don't know if they like talked a lot, but that was kind of harsh for the morale of the shogunate because they got two other people killed. Bam Bam by
That's
Firebender.
also like you're losing the fleet in East China Sea and the fleet in Fokien Strait.
Yeah,
Those are pretty like relevant units,
East China Sea is
and
not as
they're supposed to
important.
get convoyed into Hokkien. So like this army could be forward instead of like
Yeah, but
stuck in
they all
Amani
want
where
the
it can't do
dots.
anything. Yeah,
And then they don't even get that many bills because Edo takes Osaka, which I think was agreed upon.
that's probably agreed as a
Yeah,
punishment for the stab last
but
year.
instead of bouncing it, they just
Yeah.
take another dot, and now they're not in a position to. Yeah, it's generally not great because they're on three, and then everyone kind of
Yeah.
decides to kill Firebender here. I think there's like a specifically planned to do it. Like maybe Firebender chooses the people who get her dots, but I don't remember. But yeah, that's a very very not great situation for Japan. That kind of is a huge blow to them, and they're not really the same. Later, there's some general worry about who's going to be the next leader of the alliance, and I kind of get involved in that whole debate, but I think that's a little bit later. I'll talk about it next phase. And yeah, that's generally for fall.
Yeah.
As far as retreats,
So
hold up for mine.
retreats.
I think did we
Yeah,
see
we did
yours?
my
Yeah,
retreats
we
already.
saw two Capel
What
and
mattered
stuff.
was where he lives.
Yeah, they're just color in
Color
Vijapur,
in Bijapur.
and that's it. Yeah. Uh, Vamo
This retreat
lives. Yeah,
legal,
that's.
right?
I mean, that's just Vamo goes into
No,
covering.
coming is open. Yeah, this retreat's
Yeah.
allowed. Yeah.
So then you have yeah. So Hanoi's had their little journey over here up to Vamo,
Mhm.
and yeah, this is just Nakansi dying. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I think we can go over to the winter.
Yeah. So yeah, remember the agreement was that Chiripa would build like one fleet and wave the Chiripa build, wave the army, and then there would be peace in the hive. This clearly didn't happen. He just builds two armies and decides to slam. Another thing is this winter, if we look at the scoreboard, this winter is the first time that like the vassal system can really
Yes,
start to happen. So
for the it
the
went up from 3.
Chiripa and like a bunch of other powers are all at Chiripa's at 4, a bunch of powers are at 3, and anyone at 3 or higher can get vassals. So Chiripa at first asked me if I wanted to be his vassal, but he didn't actually have a unit in range of any of my dots.
Uh,
So then I believe instead he
oh, cause
settled
yeah, cause it's not
for
the winter, right?
yeah, because it's before winter, right? So his
Yeah,
units were in Tupi and Minue, and these are both 3 moves away from me. So instead, he goes with Huarpe and I want to say Nokugo, or maybe he goes with like Huarpe and 2 other 1 dot people. I know, or not Huarpe. Why am I saying Huarpe? He goes with Chipaya and like some other people.
okay.
I don't actually remember who these other people were. But the main thing is he wanted me, and Chipaya learned that didn't work, and then still took Chipaya and took someone else. But he's clearly trying to gain favor of the people over here who have armies that are free to do whatever and not threatened by fleets. Yeah, I am like tight with the Chapaya, even though I walked into their dot, it was like kind of agreed, and because it worked out in the end, it's very agreed. That said, he did tell me, hey, um, I need to build an army, I think, because there's too much nonsense happening over by like Chiripa and whatever. And I'm like, sure, go for it. You can move it into like Lula Vilela or whatever. It should be fine. Quella also builds an army. That was also agreed. We do get the fleet Naxura, which is nice. And yeah, not that much else. I'm not really under any threat right now. There are technically like they could force Chapaya together or something, but I don't think I ever die here.
Yeah, you
And
look
like,
fine.
yeah,
Down
I'm chilling.
south, more builds.
There's not really anything. There's Army Kalina. That was also a bit interesting, but like it makes sense because the fleet in Kalina is really trapped. Otherwise, like where's it gonna go? Oh, Kalina stabbed Saiyan for Saiyan, I guess. Happened.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, Fleet Lima's nice, I guess. But then the other big build is that Great Ardra waves his
yeah, I
build
saw
so he can
that.
build it in Maristad later. This is the big one.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I guess they have enough
and this
fleets
is
though.
also like there's a like Army Timbuktu as well. This is also where like my kind of press and especially my press with Africa really picks up, like going into this spring. And basically what I'm trying to say is, hey, I will support the fleets here into the dots on the coast if you guys don't convoy armies over. And most people are like, no, that's nonsense. We need to convoy armies over and push. And like, you're not on the coast, so you're not a threat to us. But I'm like, yeah, I'm not on the coast. I'm inland. So if you push armies over, you can be a threat to me. If you don't push armies over, then you're not a threat to me, and we can just chill, and we can both gain from this. And so most of them aren't having it. Some big names, Mali is very much saying, no, that's nonsense. We need to just push into South America as hard as we can. Benin, who you'll notice built an army and has no actual relevance in any of this, is also saying, yeah, no, we should be building armies. I think it's nonsense that people are listening to Weenhayek. A lot of people don't really have opinions. Agadas is the other one who's really against it and saying like, hey, Ween, stop like doing press with us at all. This isn't your alliance. Um, which I'm like, it's a game of negotiation,
Yeah,
and
people trying
you're
to
not allowed
evict
to
each
have
other
me
out of
not
channels.
negotiate
It's
in
kind of
public
weird.
trust. Yeah, people were also trying to genuinely keep me out of their channels because like they wanted to discuss with their alliance, and I was like interrupting, which is nonsense because
That's just strange.
clearly this affects me, and like the fact that they're hiding the press about South America and Africa channels doesn't make very relevance. But yeah, anyway, kind of the bigger voices, I guess, are these like completely far away people who only have armies and have no actual like part in the units involved in this. And so I'm kind of trying to spin that narrative, like, hey, the people who want to be doing all these convoys are mostly the people who stand to gain from it and are not putting themselves at risk in the process. One other person who is like in favor of armies is Sao Tome, the guinea pig guy, who's in Gold Coast right now. And so he's also like, no, but it's just like it's tactically like super stupid to not be convoying any armies over. Yeah. The main people who I was kind of more able to like agree with, Wagadugu, kind of, I don't know, he was just kind of pressing to not get the hive to unite, which was obviously my like end goal here, is to like kind of get Africa to be aggressive enough that everyone in South America has to go defend against them, and I have free reign of the continent. That's my end goal, obviously. Wagadugu seems like the only person who was kind of like working against this specifically, but he wasn't being agreeable or disagreeable as a result, and he was just kind of like trying to be more like kind of nuanced, I guess. Cormanton, who I think if you go to South America, I believe Cormanton actually got into a dot, or maybe that didn't happen yet. No, that didn't happen yet.
No, it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, they're in Todos Santos. Yeah, Cormanton and Great Ardra are the main ones who are agreeing with me. And Cormanton's like, yeah, I'll see if I can get like discuss it with others. Great Ardra is also like, hey, ultimately, like it's largely my units actually there, like all kind of have a say, and if people are talking about convoys, I will vouch for you, and I will say like, hey, no, we should be working with the natives. The natives don't want us convoying, and she's right that there's plenty of armies, and like we don't really need more armies. Let's give it to the fleets who are like putting themselves at risk. Incredibly ironic when he's the one convoyed over already, and he is
Yeah.
going to, or he's waving a bill to get a second army, and it's like very, very clear that it's in his best interest, and not at all in anyone of Western Death Star's best interest, to like agree with me here. But yeah.
I mean, that would
Anyway, I'm
say,
arguing a ton with people. I'm getting mods pinged at me. I'm getting people like asking to have me like not allowed to talk in Africa press channels. But I'm also like Arda and Cormanton, they're cool. I'm sharing like memes with Arda. Like I think one of them was like the Treaty of Tordesillas or whatever, where like instead of the Spain part, which is like everything in the left, it's Ween, and then the Portugal part is Arda, stuff like that. Yeah, and then if you look at an alliance map, actually, maybe now's a good time to look at a South America alliance map.
sure. We are in
It's not this
zoom
one.
out spring 43 fall winter.
Yeah,
Let's see.
yeah, here. So you can see Hive
Oh,
obviously breaks forward because the other leader just stabbed, and there's currently two leading factions. There's the Bishido and the Bio Liberals. Um, and I think I'm technically like I decided to not be put in either faction.
yeah. There's a big blank
Um,
there.
There's a massive gap in the middle. Chapaya, largely because he was Chiripa's vassal at this point, did join Bio Liberals. And I think the other people in that are the other vassals then, so if that makes sense, and him himself, obviously. You can see that, like, kind of that whole chunk of Brazil there is Bishido, which is like Nokugo, Minas, Salvador, stuff like that. And Bishido is like, hey, Africa, can you help us against the Bio Liberals, against Chiripa? Like, help us kill them. Help us kill our stabber coalition them. I'm like, I don't want to be forced to pick a side in this fight. I don't want to be forced to be loyal to either of these sides, basically. So at some point during spring, I go to Chapaya and I go to Quella, and I'm like, hey, what if we make a third faction, the neutral faction? And then we end up coming up with the name B-Sticks, which is a really stupid joke. But so I had after the Chiba stab, I put a knife emoji next to the B emoji in my name, and at some point, Chipai asked me like, "Hey, what is the knife emoji in your name?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's just like a knife because I was out of spoons and I wanted to like stir my soup, you know, stir the pot." That's what I'm kind of doing in Africa, obviously. And so it's like utensils, and the Swedish word for utensil is bistick, but like with one e,
Oh my
and
God.
that's also very similar to the Dutch word. Chapaya is Swedish, me and Quilla are Dutch. So it's like okay, bisticks, complete dogshit alliance, but like we kind of show our flavor of the alliance. We keep the bee theme from the hive, but then we add utensils.
It's definitely clever. Very
Yeah,
strange
and
way.
then it's us three, and also Kalina, who's way in the north, joins just because he's not in any alliance, and I'm like, hey, he's cool, he yaps, let's have him join. Like maybe we crushed if we were Amazon together, but in reality, like he's just there, like he's the comedic relief. He's like the just a nice person. Let's keep him alive and let's have him join. Yeah. And so yeah, so that's kind of how this press goes. Again, it's a lot of. I think this was the single highest press phase from me this game, and I did a lot of
Oh,
press this game.
yes, you did.
But yeah, but I am like talking a ton with Africa about, hey, don't convoy in. What am I actually doing? Uh, I basically say, hey, I want a dot. There's two dots I can take, either Aorio or Chikatano. I want one of them. And Chikatano, I think, is either not in any alliance or is in Bishido, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, kind of my like pitch to Aorio is, hey, I want you to be helping Chiripa and holding off like him getting stabbed. And in turn, I will make sure you don't die while I take my third dot here. And I'm not sure which my third dot will be. It'll either be I walk out of Aorio to take Chick in the fall, or I support you into Chick, or I like, it'll be one of the two, right? So I will make sure you don't die, either by supporting you into a dot while I take Aorio, or by not being an Aorio at the end of the phase. And calm this dot. I just tell Chiba, hey, you can have it. I'm not gonna contest you at all. Don't contest me on Aorio, and like help me with that.
Yeah, let's give them more dots.
Um,
I'm sure he needs more.
yeah, yeah. He needs more so that like other people are focused on him, and I can grow. Makes
Wonderful.
sense. Yeah. So that's kind of how this all goes. Carpe is like she technically, I think I offer her if she wants to join Beast Sticks, but she doesn't because she vassalized to Polynesia. So she
Right.
is joining MTF instead. And
Very nice.
then, yeah, Rank. I think Rank is one of the vassals of Chiripa, so he's kind of there. I don't know. I didn't have strong opinions on what he was doing or why he was there or whatever. But yeah, that's how my like spring negotiations went.
Wonderful. I'll go into my winter. Yes, you see, I built an army here. Very interesting. And Bellari
Very
builds
interesting.
nothing. So at the
Huge.
beginning, Bellari wanted to be because we were looking to get kingdoms, right? Because one of the goals of India
Yeah.
is to we couldn't try to point max when I get as many points so we can try to win the game. And we're kind of being scared because there's already some vessels over here that they were at risk of getting a kingdom last year. They're probably going to get it this year. So and then around the world, there's a lot of other big powers. And remember, there's Kiel up here. They're already on three, and then there's obviously whatever this atrocity here really is. So we were gonna kind of getting scared. So we're like, okay, we need someone to get a kingdom this year. There's definitely Kabul up there that can make something happen, but that wasn't too relevant to me. Um, yeah. Oh, by the way, while I'm on it, I know Bukhara and Uzgen join us at some point. Not too sure when that is, but at some point these guys become uni members. They weren't at the beginning, but we kind of they fold into us from the migrating hordes. Anyways, yeah. So at the beginning, Balari wants to be the kingdom we have. So they're asking Goa, they're like, Goa, can I have your second build? Can I have, and then I'll vassalize you and you'll get a bunch of points from me in return. And Surat was generally, oh yeah, Surat, sorry. Surat was generally interested in that. But at some point, I'm making my case to Bellari. I'm like, okay, what if I'm the kingdom? That makes more sense because I'm a coastal power. I can drop a bunch of fleets. You just have armies, so it would take you longer to get out. And we want to be expanding fast so we can get more growth. So I'm putting down those arguments. And Bellari eventually agrees to void their build, then build an army, and just take Bellari, which I'm very pleased about because that's just a free build for me without having much to do with it. Yeah, and by that point,
Yeah.
after this, Bellari at the beginning, they did have a lot of agency, like they were instrumental in the whole process of with Hyderabad. They're the ones who supported them to go at first to survive, and then they were key part of the negotiations on whether we keep them,
Yeah.
how are we killing them. But
I
after
mean, to be
this,
fair, they've come back from getting like having your like name written on the wall, right?
oh yeah, no, they played excellently. The first 3 years of the game, nothing to say about that. But the first like 2 years. After this phase, they basically become my unit in green. Um, yeah, they kind of lose all agency, and I'm mostly ordering them around. I think the more we go, the worse it gets. But this is kind of the big turning point on their whole
Yeah.
agency. They're letting me take their dot. I'm telling them I'm going to convoy them. Yeah, because one of their big goals was to like get away, like, find new land, make it get convoyed across. I'm like, okay, we're going to convoy you to Morocco. You're going to be able to help us out. It's going to be way more fun than just staying stuck around here in India. So that was one of my big plans for that. And that convoy, there's some interesting things about how it's going to be set up. That's going to be more so later in the year, but yeah. So they agree to hand over the dot and they avoid perfectly. Winter couldn't have gone better. As far as other things, Surat builds a fleet. They're gonna go keep on working with Ahmedabad and them to go in that region. That happens. Kathmandu gets a build. That's gonna let us push further. Um, very nice. As far as Japan, yeah. So you can see Edo gets a build. Firebender voids their build. That's interesting. Uh, I think at that point
Army
they
Ada
were
is
just done.
interesting. Like, what is this army ever doing?
It's going to go for Kyoto. I think it's taking Kyoto, or
But a
I don't think
fleet
it's
can
getting
get there
convoyed
from
anyway.
Osaka, right?
Uh,
Yeah, like that's the point, right? Like this army just
yeah,
seems bad.
I don't know. Edo was not the most active player. I don't know if there was negotiations around being their army, but they didn't they didn't do much, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and at this point, I think is where they decided to put a new leader, a new shogun for the alliance. Because Edo's the emperor, but then they want to have the shogun, who's basically the main leader. And there's a couple options. I think maybe Formosa threw their hat in the ring. They were a pretty fun player. They were generally active. There's Pyongyang, who was a big warmonger. They played in the 7 Days of Chaos, and they were a pretty big part of that as well. So they are a Chaos veteran, and they were a pretty intense player, like you can like that. And then there was Fusan, and I was generally encouraging for Fusan to be the new shogun because they were pretty well reasoned. They seemed like they wouldn't get like too excited and stuff, but they seemed someone I can trust to be reasonable generally. And they also seemed someone like I could control and basically pop it around. And I need the shogunate on my good side because at some point this becomes a mega alliance, much like MTF. And I'm saying to myself, like, it's obvious that if you look at the map, like, there's going to be conflict between us, like, over Indian Ocean. There's going to be conflicts over us and MTF once we finish killing Golden Federation. So I'm going to need the Shogunate on side to hit him from the flank. So I'm like, I think the best option would be Fusan because they're like fine with just being on one dot the entire time. I think they maybe we're looking at a build later on in the game, but for now, they weren't super expansionist, contrary to Pyongyang, who was more, they wanted more dots, and you'll see that later. But yeah, so generally I was endorsing them, and eventually they did get chosen. I don't know if there was an election or how it happened, but they were the new shogun and they became the leader for a long time. Yeah. So that's pretty much all the negotiations. Again, I don't know if this was exactly this turn, but somewhere around this time it doesn't matter too much because the shogun's not going to be too relevant for the time being. Yeah. So I think we can go to spring.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, up here you can see I walk into I backfill Weenhayek and walk into Aoreo. We get a really nice DMZ along the entire like B sticks area. Oh, also another person. who had offered to join B6 was Madeira, the like great power in Madeira and Exura, right? But they, I think, wanted to be even more neutral than the alliance that was made to stay neutral, so they didn't end up joining. Yeah, some other things you can see of note. So there's this whole dot shuffle being planned around with the Bushido people and the Africans, where Minas is going to get to survive in Nokugo, Salvador is going to get to survive in Minas, Rio stays in Rio, and Nokugo gets Sao Paulo and then gets into Tupi. And you can see that in the end, I tried to get Aoreo to support Downpour up into Kan to bounce this, but it doesn't work out. And Nokugo does get their army into Kan here. Which means that they also, with kind of this African fleet in Rio Grande Reis, they're going to be able to force Tupi here, even though Shripa has like some units around to maybe try to defend. Yeah, Shapaya walks into like these two provinces to go obviously force rank, probably. Like that's just the obvious thing that these moves do. Yeah, I'm in Aoreo. As I said, like I was either going to stay in Aoreo but support Ofaye up to Chick, or I'm just going to support myself from Aoreo up to Chick so that Aoreo doesn't die, and then feel free to do useful moves for Sharipa in like with this unit, because this is a really good unit to have right now. And I mean it's very clear as well from this press that I'm actively trying to work with Sharipa over the Bushido. So like I made this V6 alliance to be like I'm going to stay neutral. But in reality, I'm clearly not neutral, right? I'm clearly working with Downpour right now. Yeah. Another thing you can see the Salvador like take. I'm kind of like getting annoyed at Bushido for like, hey, why are we just giving away dots to Africa? This isn't taking a dot away from Downpour. This is taking a dot away from Salvador. And Salvador did not stab the hive. Like, if you're gonna support them into like Sharipa's dots, like be consistent, right? Like have the backbone. Don't just also let them take Salvador. Another thing you see, Bellum gets supported into Maristad in spring here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That
And that
is
is
going to be
by
that is arranged. It's supported by Africa, but it's arranged with the idea that this way they support into South Sebastio in fall, and it just lets them be very safe with like not having to risk Maristad getting dotted much, not having to risk any shitty retreats.
yeah.
And like they want to leave Maristad open so that Great Order can build his second army here. Yeah. And then I think Huarpe's doing some support that doesn't end up mattering. I don't think much else matters. Like they fill a bunch more sea tiles.
Yeah, that's a
But
lot of
yeah,
enemy units.
yeah. So yeah, that's me. Oh,
What's going
and like
on
you can
over here in the
see,
north with
yeah, pirates are still doing pirate stuff. I think Antigua was like begging people to convoy his army. Um,
right, that rings a bell.
and so he was like, Africa, can you convoy me through SAO to literally any dot? I have the Guyana current. I have this army in Antigua. Give me a dot, please. Please give me a dot. I think Guadalupe being read as a like error from the map. I think it's supposed to
Yeah,
just
but
be
because you can
yeah,
see, I'm presuming the islands are green, but that is their
yeah, but
dot.
the islands are tiny. Hard for me to see from here. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then over by Madeira, they fuck up the tactics here or whatever, and they just kind of let Japura walk in because he moves his unit while it's trying to get support held. I'm not
Oh,
sure what
right.
happened on
Mm.
this. Lima
Japura
has some
are they
that are probably doing
neutral?
stuff.
Let me go see.
Japura is neutral still, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then one thing I never mentioned, but I think last year in fall, Koryax dotted Galapagos, but Galapagos is currently alive in Panama. And again, Galapagos
Right.
was the slideshow, like the Pope of slides.
Koreax,
I
which
think
is
at
over
this point she
here.
also Koryax is way up in Siberia. But this guy is now in Galapagos. So that's just another region that's invading South America.
Wonderful. Everyone's got to get their piece.
Yeah, yeah. You can also see that I think yeah. So I think this is also the phase where Polynesia supports themselves into ROG.
Right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. So this is where we kind of go to Polynesia, like, hey, please be friends with us. Um, we don't want to fight MTF. You don't need to take our dots like Corpe or Lika. You can
Yeah.
just like not take these dots from us.
Polynesia, which is over here with Uruk,
Yeah, yeah,
and New Zealand as well as Chile.
yeah. Danny moves into Kawasar, and I believe there's an agreement with Africa and MTF that Danny is going to get Teleche, and in turn Africa can get like Tushen and stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Everyone's working together against Yale.
Um. Yeah, yeah, no. Every region except South America was anti-South America this game. And I was the main one fighting against it. I was the one doing all the press. I was telling like my fellow South Americans, hey, let's like stone up a bit. We need to keep these like invaders out. I'm talking with Ardra. Ardra's still like, yo, we're besties. I'm gonna speak out against any African convoys. And he also, I believe, GP has like a phase, like a once per phase, like massive wall of text discussion.
Oof.
And he puts a big wall of text on the topic of convoying more armies over, and he says it'll be bad. Don't do it. We want to have some allies in the region because we can't 1v like we can't fight the entire region. And he's saying like, hey, this Weenhayek person seems pretty good to work with actually, and like it seems pretty reasonable what she's saying. Yeah. Cormanton is like still against the idea of convoying armies over, but he's also butting heads with me a bit now because I was annoyed that Salvador just gave his dot away for free. And he was like, "Oh, but we're helping you guys against Chiripa, so it's reasonable that we get payment in the dot up here." But yeah, I think eventually we kind of like make good. And then in the end, like again, I'm really pushing hard. Molly is still really pushing hard against. Wag is like, don't listen to Ween. She's clearly not having our interests in mind. He's correct again. He's the most correct person this entire time. And like it's like pretty obvious to me that like because Great Ardra and I kind of had a split of like, no, I think that comes later. Yeah, that might come later. But yeah, it seems like obvious enough to me that like Quorum and Ardra are still trying to be kind of subtle about maybe we convoyant later, you know? Like, and obviously, right? Like, you don't have to honor agreements forever in this type of game. But yeah, Molly is still very hard pushing against. But then Endakaru, who I haven't really talked about yet, but this guy's been the guy kind of coordinating tactics for Western Death Star and like all the fleets.
They're over
So he's been the
here.
one saying, hey, this unit will move into this tile, it will be supported by this unit, etc. You know, like making sure that like because it's every fleet here is from a different player and they have to put in like orders that work together. If they both try to accidentally tap the same space, it won't work.
Yeah, high seas
Yeah,
tactics are not pleasant with these games where everyone's a different power.
yeah. And so and Akaru does end up giving the final say of like let's not convoy another army over this year. In the fall. Another thing to note, I think this Canaries fleet in SAO5. This is like not the intended
Canaries?
order. Yeah, Canaries is in SAO5 right
Right.
now, and they go back to Canary Basin, and I think this is very much not the intended order for them to do.
Yeah, but you see there's these guys
Um,
over here moving next to the dot,
yeah,
so they probably makes
like I'm
sense.
pretty sure this was supposed to be like a useful move, you know. And moving back into Canary Basin and away from the front lines is not useful.
Oh, they get backfilled.
I don't actually know what it was supposed to be. It does get backfilled, but I'm sure he had like something better that he was
Maybe, yeah.
supposed to do.
Anyways.
Yeah. Beyond that, I think that's everything for me.
Alright.
Again, I'm talking about fall like before we see spring retreats, but I don't think there's any really relevant retreats here anyway.
No, I don't think so. At least not for me.
Yeah.
I'll go see.
Yeah.
So
Same.
yeah, I'm moving to Paneru over here to, as I said, grab Balarza. I think my reasoning here was that if I go to Right Shore, it doesn't matter. That might threaten because Raja was a bit of a paranoid player. Like I had to work a lot to convince them to let Balari into their dot over here to get the convoy over to Morocco. And yeah, but eventually they did. So I'm moving to Paneru, so they're not paranoid. The only dot I'm adjacent to is Balari and can just walk into that for free. And you can see Balari does as they told, so I can have a guaranteed build here. And everything else is going around as planned. We've got um, meet Andra Coast. My fleet mod is going back to Andra Coast.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was actually
Andaman is being
trying.
supported into Andaman Sea.
Yep, I mean they're working. I don't. Maybe that's in the goal of going after Pegu. I don't really remember because Tavoy is still
Mm,
in their alliance here. So all of these are friendly fleets. But anyways,
mm.
if the dot's open, I mean I'm not complaining. Sumatra is. Yeah, I don't really recall what's the
Sumatra is
thing.
getting taken as
Sumatra's
well
big.
by
Yeah, but
Sandos.
Sumatra was always a member of the alliance. They're not gonna die. Oh right, I think maybe they're gonna kill Tavoy here because I think the goal was for Sumatra to get to Andaman Sea, Andaman Islands, and then Andaman's gonna be sent to somewhere. It doesn't end up going that way, but I don't think. But yeah,
Mm.
let's see how it goes. Maybe Andaman just dies. It was I don't know if they would promise to die or not. Anyways, yeah. So they're moving into here to prepare for the convoy. I'm arranging a convoy to Morocco so we can go help these guys get an army there and help our friends over here make progress once they push through Bamo. Taxes over here aren't super interesting. They're getting into Bhutan, probably preparing attack over there. Over in the south, yeah, here you see Cochin, Surat, um, Reunion, all moving forwards over here. Maldives is still down here over in Mozambique Channel. Um, yeah, not too sure what they're doing over here. Ceylon's going back over to the Indian Ocean. Might have been on my request. I don't remember. Maybe I needed them for something. But I'm not too sure what they're doing here. But so, because I was talking a lot to Ceylon and the Indian Ocean people when I needed them. I've asked a couple of favors of them through the early game. Because sometimes they're just useful there as threats, not even to make any moves, but it's useful to have those for the presence, and we can be like threatening Sumatra and things. As far as MTF, you see there's more conflict with Timor, I think, but no one's really attacking them, so I think they probably made peace and they just let them go crazy with killing Gulu. So here they're going to go to three. Danny and New Zealand and Polynesia are having their fun in South America. And then yeah, there's more tactics coming in. So Nakansi is going to Kra, Tunisia to go to Siam, and Cotabato backfills that. So they're really trying to put the squeeze. Like this is not the easiest place to attack because the dots are pretty well sheltered and there's not a lot of armies available. So it does take a while to break through, but eventually we're able to. But like it takes a fair few years, which I'm not complaining about because they're over here distracting all the enemy units without making that much progress. So that's allowing us to come in from these sides and get more dots because obviously we don't want MTF to go too much out of the deal. There's more fun stuff over here in China as well. We can see a firebender, I think, is preparing to die. They're being sent over to East China Sea. Sure what that's about. Yeah, so Army Edo, as I said, is going to go come out take Kyoto, I think. Maybe that's why they had the army, because that fleet. No, but no,
The
no, because
fleet
the
can.
fleet, the
You can
fleet
move
could
from
also gone to
Osaka to
Kuroshio.
Kyoto.
Yeah, yeah, but then and
Yeah.
then Edo could also come to Kuroshio current. So there's
Yeah.
no reason for that. But oh well. Aomori over
Mm.
here is coming down into Halmer. I don't know if that was planned or anything, because this is yeah Minato. They seem to be killing Zambo over here because Zambo used to be a member. I have no idea. At some point, I started paying way more attention to MTF things, but for now, not really. So I'm not too sure what's
I also
happening
could not
here.
really tell you what's
Yeah,
happening here.
but I think over time, the
Yeah.
Shogun's going to take more of an interest in the south. They've already got one fleet going down here.
And they're
And yeah,
moving into
you've
like
got
Kuchida and
Koryaks who
stuff.
sniped, and they're taking control over
Yeah.
MTO. You've got Sahelian and their fleet over here. They're really putting a lot of pressure, which I'm happy about. Yeah. Another thing,
Yeah.
Madras over here now in Madurai, yeah, they become, like I said earlier, kind of my right-hand man, and they're moving down. I sent them down there so they could be in the Indian Ocean and help out there. But they start really coordinating things over here. They can start being a big part of the moves over there. I don't really look down there really, so they're being kind of in charge of that for me, which is really good. And later on, that becomes relevant because of the things they're coordinating without ever communicating with me. Like Madras was like the one person I could kind of talk to without really talking to. We kind of understood what we wanted to do, and that was really useful because in a chaos game, that's super valuable. If you've got someone where you can kind of understand each other's intention, and you don't have to put it out there for everyone to see. So anyways, they were doing ocean negotiations in a way that would be very useful for us later on. So yeah, generally we're just setting up for this convoy and making progress on most fronts. Not super exciting for the time being. gonna go to retreats. Do I not have? I might not have retreats in this, so and is there any relevant ones? So it doesn't matter, but
Yeah, I don't have any relevant sheets either. So fall moves. So yeah, one thing to note here, I was pushing hard for a lot of things around this area chick, like 2P area kind of. I wanted to, what's it called? I wanted like Ofaye to support hold 2P, which would have kept the dot there
okay, yeah,
for Sharipa, so they would get a build and whatnot. And that build would go in Minuet, right? Like that's such a fine build for me to see. And it was like that, or I support them up into Chikianto, which if Nokugo tries to tap Ofaye, would mean the Minas player dies. But ultimately, none of that ends up happening. And then Aorio says that they kind of didn't properly input the support on 2P, and that like they got timed basically. I don't believe this for a second, so it's like, this guy just stabbed and is using misorder as an excuse. And I'm like, hey, I know that other people in the hive were a bit relaxed on like Ezio about that excuse, but I'm not like very accepting of it. Like, nah, it's not gonna fly actually. Like if you're gonna like be worth keeping alive for me, because I did walk out of his dot, obviously.
yeah.
I was like, if you're gonna be worth keeping alive, I need you not to make misorders that help my enemies. You can also see, I think this bounce next year is arranged, and then Krella supports me up into Chick as well, just for good measure.
Very nice.
Yeah, you can see that Chick tries to get supported into Madeira, but Madeira itself doesn't issue a support, and instead tries to bounce Lima, or tries to dot Lima, and some Chick just dies. Japur gets up to 3. Kalina walks into Bellum, which I think was not necessarily agreed, but there was this rogue Parmumbo army in Carib. I think that was like kind of the idea of, hey, Carib's never going to tap Kalina, right? So let's just like have it like, or let's just like try to cover Bellum, and then it either bounces or Kalina gets an extra dot. But Bellum's never dying because they're getting supported into South Sebas. Ardra gets his open Marstad to build in, and
Very
then one thing
nice.
you'll also see is
The convoy, I see. Yes.
yeah, they're convoying an army into East Las Malvinas. This was the
What?
compromise they ended up settling on, and I was like still very unhappy because like, well, the only purpose to this is to now have this unit be in range to get convoyed into the mainland later. A fleet is just so much more useful in that tile.
And it's the rage bait
Um,
army, which makes it even more funny.
yeah, and this is not a tile you want an army in ever. The only time you'd ever want an army here is if you're going to convoy it into South America after.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just better if the army is still up in Africa. So I'm like still using this as a very valid reason to be mad, and I'm still trying to use this to like convince all these other players like, hey, stop that, stop infighting and go fight off Africa. Another thing you'll see is that Huarpe gets killed, stabbed tragically by their overlord by
Ooh.
Polynesia. Chapai gets into rank though. But yeah, Huarpe's dead. There's no like miracle retreat that can save them this time either. There's nothing. It's just gone.
Farewell. Yeah, the deaths are starting
Yeah.
to rank up over here.
Yeah, but yeah, I get up to 3. Chapai gets up to 3. Ella's still on 2, but that's fine. Um, and then in the
Doing a hole
north,
in that.
Kalina did get into Bellum, but they do get stabbed by Antigua. Yeah, he gets his convoy, but like he couldn't get a cool international one, so he just goes into Saiyan instead.
Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah, which is obviously like a really scary stab. Yeah.
All right.
Also, Kalina supports Barbados into Parm. It's like he was trying to generally be like friends with the pirates up there. Barbados was very friendly, but like Antigua obviously less so.
Yeah. Antigua's on their own, doing their own thing.
But yeah, overall, still like a solid year for the B sticks. I think we're a 4-member alliance, we go +2, which is pretty damn good, honestly.
Who's the
But
fourth
specifically, the
member? Is it
+2 are on me. It's me, Quella, Chapaya, and then Kalina.
Kalina, right?
Yeah. Um, and yeah, I mean the people on 3 are me and Chapaya. Um,
Yep.
Also, you can see that Vika is open again for a build. I think this time he does go for the fleet. I'm not entirely sure. I tell him I don't care. Also, like, Chapaya is going to break from being a vassal of Sharipa now because he's on 3, so he's a kingdom himself and no longer is a lower rank. So I tell Chapaya, hey, let's royal marry. Let's yeah, let's form a dual monarchy.
Very nice.
Yeah. So I'll start hopefully getting to the points to rack in a bit now.
Yeah, that's a full 6 points per turn for you now.
Yeah, which is pretty good on 3 dots.
Can't complain.
Yeah,
And then yeah, you got Chiripa going neutral and staying on 4.
yeah. Keeps
These
calm but
guys,
loses, or gains calm, loses 2p.
yeah, I'll go look at the
Yeah, I think
leaderboard
that's everything up
after.
here. Yeah, yeah, after you see your own moves, obviously.
Yeah, perfect. Let's go to India. All right. So yeah, um, as far as my things on the main continent, I take Bellari no problem. But then this convoy had a very lot of interesting context around it, right? So we are trying to get Bellari in Raja up to Morocco with Kokata support, but Pegu is
Yeah.
just standing there.
Get the army out of India.
Yeah, perfect. It would be great if it worked. Pegu is just standing there, and they can easily support hold because they don't want an army there, right? And then Bamo could potentially also, but they're too busy, so they were never going to help. So it's really Pegu's supporting Ava's army that's the threat.
Bam
And
also really easy for you to tap, but you don't have any unit that can tap Pegu. Like, there's no
yeah,
UNI units that can tap Pegu,
no,
except for the one who's already doing the convoy.
yeah, exactly. And we can't throw any other support because like Sasaram could help,
Yeah.
but they're busy, and even that, see, they even get capped by Bamo, so that wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
So I'm looking who can help, who's conveniently next to it. Anaman and Anaman C. But the problem is they're dying. Sumatra is getting their dot so that Sambas can get Sumatra and become a kingdom, but without their ally dying. So Anaman is unfortunately a casualty of this. And then at the same time, Chiang Mai over here is offering them support into Tavoy, or they're telling them in press, I'll give you to because Tavoy is
Mm,
the turncoat, right? They betrayed
yeah.
the Golden Federation over here. So Chiang Mai wants that, and they're like, they want to get a friendly fleet over here, so it's a win-win for everyone. But I really want them to tap Pegu for me. So I'm negotiating the hell out of it. Like, okay, it's not gonna work. Even if you go to Tavoy, look at all those fleets next to you. You're just gonna die next year. It's gonna be boring. How about you die with honor, with bravery, and we glory, and you help us make a nice convoy over to Morocco. That's a two-fleet convoy, and the convoys are just generally regarded as cool in these games. So I like using that for my own purposes. Like it can be so fun. And they're like, at the end, they're like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And Raja was very unsecure about the convo because again, if it fails, they die because they are that's the only dot, and if it fails, then Malari stays in Raja. So I was kind of telling the entire time like, yeah, 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 it's all good, don't worry, we've got it. So at the end, they're like, okay, I'll do it because they were really on the fence for a while, but eventually they agree. And then after that, Anaman does give me the okay, say they have Pegu, and everything works well. So after that, I'm telling myself, let's go. I'm a diplomatic genius. Everything went so great. I'm just better. And then at the end of the game, after everything's done, I'm talking to Anaman, and they're like, we were talking about that place, and I was like, yeah, 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 that went well. I'm happy we worked it out. And they tell me they flipped the coin. So basically, the entire game could have went completely differently because of the coin flip. Because if that fails, then I can't like Bellari's
And
on
you lose a Bay
two.
of Bengal fleet, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we lose a Bay of Bengal fleet. Bellari's on two in India, and they could build an army if they want to. It would have just been such a disaster, and it was a coin flip,
Yeah,
and
and
I
you're not
didn't
making
know.
progress, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, it
it's
would have
just
been really bad if that failed,
horrible,
yeah.
and I didn't know that the
It's a
ads would
massive
end,
coin flip.
but it was a coin flip. It was very
Yeah.
funny to learn. So yeah, and it's kind of crazy that they ended up on that. I mean, just the fact that they flipped the coin instead of just taking the free support, because yeah, they probably would have died, but like still, that's a dot.
You live for another year,
Yeah,
and
and
like you
Chiang
can try
Mai,
to press yourself out of dying then,
yeah,
right?
but Andaman wasn't a very active player, so they were kind of just done with it. So,
Yeah.
anyways, it worked out. We don't have to worry about how it happened, just that it happened. So good on that.
Oh yeah. Before you move on, I was reading through my notes again.
Yeah, I
It's
wasn't
like I
done
think
anyways.
this is the
So
last phase I have notes on. But yeah, I have one
yeah,
more thing I want to say about my region first.
so I'll just
But
finish
yeah,
over here and then we'll go
yeah,
back before. Yeah, so The Dravid district down in the south is continuing to make progress. Here they're fighting. I think this was the Pirate Parlay Alliance. They are fighting them over here. You've got Somali Basin trying to give support to Hobio. I think this is Mekele. And then they're dislodging Seychelles Sea at the same time. Maldives is moving up, so they're generally more trying to strike at this area over here. After that, yeah, these guys. So Sambas gets their 3, so they're going to be able to become a kingdom and make vassals. Over here, there's more shenanigans in the Philippines that we're not going to worry too much about. Okay, so far, Benue does get convoyed over to Hokkien. I guess that's just, no, they convoy themselves over, I guess, for fun, because yeah, they could have taken Nanking. Yeah, if they wanted to, they could have lived, but I think they were just done. They knew they died, so they just convoy with history for fun. They die. Formosa gets Okinawa, Hanyang gets Amani, and Pyongyang gets. So Edo doesn't even get a dot. So the army holds. Okay, yeah. Again, the mystery of the Edo army continues. Yeah, so yeah, Pyongyang
Why
gets
is this?
Kyoto. It just makes no sense. Here, Ainu takes Aomori, and then I think this is Haishinwa. Yeah, they take
This was
Ainu.
because this was because Amamori ran down into the
Yeah,
sea
I
over,
know this was some.
I guess. Yeah.
They became
So this
rogue
is
at some
probably like
point.
that was a stab that they didn't want to commit to yet, so they killed him instead.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then
Yeah.
yeah, the shogunate, which is very
And
very
then
passive the entire time.
yeah.
These guys were worse.
And then the army in Edo is next to 2 dots that are both being taken to kill off like stabbers,
Yeah,
and Army Edo gets neither of them.
no,
Why did we build this unit?
it's just killing, and then they're helping. Yeah, Edo was a very passive player. This is a passive alliance at the same time. We have the Council of Wisdom still holding.
Yeah.
I can't be asked.
And
Chengjing,
we're still on one.
Kikihar. Here,
Yeah.
there's some fun things happening. I think they're generally trying to move over to the Siberian tundra. There doesn't seem to be many stabs going. Turfan does take Lanzhou here. I don't know. At some point, that was they did arrange to take that. I think that might have been arranged because they wanted to do the whole kingdom thing. Not too sure. Turfan's more relevant later, but for now, the besties are chilling. I think
Yeah.
that's generally. Oh yeah, there's another thing. Kabul goes into Delhi, which was not arranged. They
Oh.
wanted the kingdom status, but they did not ask for it beforehand.
Hmm.
So that's another Indian fun bit of Indian not so for unity. Yeah, that's about it for me. I'll go back to your
Yeah. So yeah. Back to me real
area.
quick. So one thing is towards the end of the phase, I ask Chiripa like, hey, do you want me to bounce in Chiripa with Com so you know that I'm not taking it? Or like, yeah, so I bounce you in Chiripa with your unit in Com so you know that I'm not taking Chiripa. Um, and obviously, like, my entire spiel for the rest of the phase is I'm not going to let Aoreo die. I'm going to, like, either support myself out of Aoreo into Chick, or I'm going to support Aoreo up into Chick. So either way, if Aoreo, which is my only unit next to Chiripa, is doing an arranged bounce in Chiripa, Aoreo dies. And then I would just have Hano Army support Weenhayek up, and I'd go +2. So I asked Chiripa, like, hey, do you want that? And he says no. And then
Aw,
I again trust his judgment, and walk into Chick with the Aoreo unit. Otherwise, like, obviously I wasn't going to actually balance Chiripa.
yeah.
I would have just worked Weenhayek up, but this was me basically asking him, like, hey, do you want me to have a unit in Aoreo at the end of the, like, year?
Hmm. Fair enough.
Yeah. And so yeah, that was the last small thing I wanted to mention because that showed again me and Chiripa still very much working together. Yeah, and then
Retreats. We
retreat.
got this fleet moving into retreating over into Indian Ocean, which is not good for us because we've got Ceylon and Maldives over here, both and Reunion. We're all
Yeah,
in our alliance bordering that, so that's not too great. Um,
this is Hobio. Yeah,
yeah, so that we means we're gonna have to deal with that because they're still alive. They still, maybe not. It probably gets disbanded actually because they seem to only be on one here. So, anyways, I don't remember, but if that's a rogue fleet, we'll see. I'll have to see in winter, but that's not too great either.
I remember what happens with this fleet.
Yeah, and then Ava retreats obviously to Ava makes
Yeah,
sense. Hanoi is
and it's actually like
executing.
strictly worse than disbanding it and rebuilding an Ava.
Yeah,
Actually, no, because there's a unit in Bama that needs to retreat. Never mind, you do just retreat in then.
yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, in South America, I don't know if there's any relevant retreats.
I
There
didn't
might be.
see
I can
anything.
tell
It
you.
just looks
I
like a
see a
bunch of just
massive
grants. Oh, right.
cross-map arrow, but there's also, yeah, I mean, this unit retreats to Zeta.
Rank
That doesn't
goes
matter.
over
Chick
to
dies. Rank goes
Rome.
to Rome, sure.
Fun.
The player could have been like from Rome. I don't know.
Uh,
I mean, he's dead, right? South Sebas
yeah,
is dead, and pop the
doesn't
unit
matter.
instead of coloring in the thing.
Yeah.
Pagoda dies here, I think.
A lot of dead South Americans.
Yeah, a lot of people in South America died each year. It's a bit concerning.
Meanwhile, here we are still on the death count of
Yeah,
one from Hyderabad. Uni forever, guys.
yeah. And so yeah, now we're both on 3. We're chilling. If we look at the scoreboard here, in winter, you'll see
Yeah.
Chiripa, who's been at 4 for a while now, is in the lead. Keel has caught up.
Also down to 4. Oh, they
Yeah,
did.
also got up to 4.
That's fun. Did they lose a dot?
You
Because
can
I
see
thought. Oh, they lost Woolrook, New Zealand. They took
they lost Warwick,
a dot, but
because I think they kind of like gave that up too
yeah, that
because
would make sense.
was stabbed for Gulu.
Mhm.
So they're
Mexico
still at 3.
City is on 3. I've never heard of
Cities
Mexico
on 3.
City.
I have no clue what happened here at all.
Spoiler alert, they don't win. Yeah,
There's on 3. I'm sure that means they've played very well so far.
yeah,
So good job to them, I guess. Who
indeed.
knows? Yeah, and then
Cairo,
like
Cairo's
oh,
on
got
2 but
that.
9, so they were probably on 3 last year
They
but
were on
went
3 last
down.
year. Yeah,
And then a bunch of people, and then are we?
the scoreboard is not yet updated for the
No,
new like
yeah. We'll look after. I mean,
um.
at some point the scoreboard just becomes broken, but
The scoreboard becomes less and less like consistent as well. Yeah, the scoreboard was not like perfect by any
it's good
means.
for dots, but not for the points.
Yeah.
All right. As far as
Um.
builds, you can go.
Yeah. I build an army in the one place I can build an army. Japai still builds an army. I would have loved for this to be a fleet as well, but like on the
Yeah,
other
that's a
hand,
lot of armies.
armies are pretty good. And I think this was like a kind of request from what's called Polynesia, like, hey, don't build the fleet, and we can be peaceful. But if you build the fleet, we will be warful.
Yeah, fair enough.
Um, yeah, and then yeah, there's a build in Sao Paulo, I guess. I don't know why there's no new builds there. I don't know why both these units have green circles.
Yeah, that seems strange, but oh well. The bot,
Yeah, same with like the Kalina units are supposed to get disband from Kalina. They're on 2, so I don't
right.
know why there's a
We'll
build in
see what
Kalina.
happens in that in spring. Well,
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of fun stuff happening here. Army in Amazonia and like Japura now, he's just been chilling. He's got like so many units up there, and it's going to be really, really hard for anyone to break into him.
yeah,
I am
he needs to
talking a bit
clear
with Ardra,
spaces.
who built his army, as you see, in Marsad. I'm talking a bit with Ardra about like, hey, how about we split like this area kind of, and I would get Madeira out of that, or like my alliance, B6 would get Madeira out of that, and Ardra's alliance would get Amazon out of that. Also, this winter is when Ardra makes the Great Protectorate, which is basically him on behalf of guinea pigs saying that he will protect Rio de Janeiro, Minas, and Nokugo, and that they're and Bellum, and that like these are like in New Alliance. So if we go to the alliance map,
Yeah, I wanted to see a
um,
couple of things for the alliance as well.
yeah, we'll see Great Protectorate
We are
exist
on.
at some point. And this really pissed off his alliance.
There we go.
So yeah, you can see also he made like the kingdoms that were allianceless, like Japura and Chiripa now. He made these into just their own one nation alliance.
Okay.
Yeah. B-Stick is a huge. Madeira also joined at this point, I guess. I forget if that was just an error on Emu's end, or if they'd actually joined, but I did remember trying to get them to join, so maybe they're in. You can see MTF is at like the little corner, the tip of Argentina and stuff there in Chile.
Right. Yeah, over here.
B-Stick has like a pretty big. They're honestly pretty big now. Bishido kind of no longer exists because they turned into the Great Protectorate. And then Japura is still just a force to be reckoned with. The pirates have thoroughly started consolidating the north here. Um, and yeah, Africa, guinea pigs have exploded. They also added a lot of new members, I think. But they have a ton of dots right now.
Yeah.
They're even in like, what is this, Tripoli? Yeah. And then yeah, there's the Great Protectorate, which is guinea pigs, but in South America. So
That's
that's something I can deal with now.
yeah.
Yeah, as I said, me and Art are our besties, so like we're chilling. Yeah,
All
and
right.
then I believe this is when Oriax, the player who's in Galapagos, remember, and has no business being there or anywhere else in South America. I believe here they like ping or like pitch some like offer to the pirates themselves, MTF, and like Western Death Star or like Western Drift, to split South America four ways. And it's some like completely maniacal split that has like Coriax and like their alliance getting all the way into like Quella and stuff and Madeira, where they're only in Galapagos and Colin Ridge. They have no chance of getting into like Quella or Madeira. So yeah, the splits gets pitched and like laughed at. Also, this unit in Colin Ridge, that is not Pagoda, that is Saha, I think, whatever.
Sahalian,
Somewhere.
yeah, they're up
Yeah.
over here.
This confused me for a bit at first because I thought Pagoda was dead, but yeah, you can see Venezuela has all three of these units
Yeah.
now. I think they renamed his Venezuela here, and they gave their Cap-Haitian dot over to their friend in Saint Domingo who'd helped them in.
No, some of the colors sometimes
Barbados,
were
Brazil.
confusing, like you were saying, but
Yeah,
some it has caused me some issues. It had some real impacts in my game later on.
yeah. It doesn't impact me too much, fortunately. Like even the yellows that are like kind of near me, like Polynesia, is a clearly different shade of yellow from mine,
Oh yeah.
and Canon Bornu's like the other close-ish yellow to me, or like Barbados, but they're also distinct shades and very far away.
And if
But
the
yeah,
Borneo armies start being close to you, then you've got other issues.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you want to talk about your winter,
Yes.
and then I can go talk
So
about spring?
here I put down another army. So there's no other units in the region, basically. It's only me, and I put down two armies. Surely nothing would ever go
Yeah.
wrong with that.
hmm
Um,
There's not a
I,
chance you just walk into Hyderabad and like coach in here
never,
unopposed.
never.
Obviously, you would never do such a
But
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking for this year is that generally, uh, I want to get more dots, more builds. Yeah, one thing is, as far as the vassals go, I'm on three. I vassalize the people in my region, so that's Madras, Raja, and Ballari.
Uh, Laureate, those three. Yep.
Yeah.
And so now they have a vested interest half as big as your own interest in getting you dots for the points.
Yes, which we love. And then I'm looking at Goa,
Yeah.
who last year they were looking because remember Bellari when they maybe wanted to be a kingdom, they were asking Surat to hand over Goa so they could be vassalized, and now maybe looking to get Surat to do that. I tried to go it for this year, but I asked them too late in the phase, and so they don't see the message in time, so we can't negotiate that. But that's going to be relevant later. So for dots, since I can't go for here, I'm looking at obviously the other side. There's a nice line of fleets that could go into Pegu. So yeah, so last year I noticed that we could have successfully because if Andaman was working for us, instead of getting it to tap Pegu, because we could have gotten it to support a convoy into Pegu, which would have been nice. But like, why would we be giving Bellari any dots? The dots would be
Well,
going to me.
that would not be your dot for
Yeah,
your army
so
convoyed into Pegu, right? So
exactly.
we just don't see that possibility.
No, so
Yeah.
we ignore it. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at getting some more convoys this year. I'm trying to get. I was definitely trying to get Pegu, and I also want to get Ava if possible, but that kind of depends on some tactics. If the people over here are going to be trying to help me, or if they're busy elsewhere. So that's generally the plan: build armies, send them over. Because if I build fleets, there's nowhere really for them to go for now. There's because like there's a
Yeah.
dot in Andaman, but I already have my fleet there. We've got Indian Ocean
Yeah.
covered. Okay,
Like now
so
that I'm not playing in World of Chaos, army convoying armies into new regions is a great way to get new dots in that region.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, we see that Hobio fleet does stay there, so that's what we're gonna be at. We're gonna have to cover our dots over here, I would assume, unless we find a peaceful solution. I don't really remember how that went, but I don't think it was particularly fun. Otherwise, Andaman does bans. There's a Firebender loses all. the units. We've got a new army coming in down in Pyongyang. I'm assuming that's going to go get convoyed. And yeah. Oh, they're on 4 right now. I didn't see they took change. Yeah, this is when they start getting really big. But yeah, that's for later. I don't really have much to say else for winter.
All right, that's going to be about it for this part. Hope y'all are enjoying the ride so far, and we'll see you in part 2.